What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you guys. Welcome to a Tuesday show. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. A couple minutes after 3 o'clock, a few minutes late getting started. I was just updating our Vegas board here real quick. Only a couple of lineups in, so it was a good time to do it right before the show. We'll get all the projections updated to reflect a couple spots where run moved by a half a run, total moved by a half a run, minor line movement, but it was worth accounting for. So apologies for taking a moment to do that, but hopefully your days are going well out there. Joining us in the middle of the afternoon, like I said yesterday, can't be all bad at your place of work or whatever you're doing around the house or out and about for the day. Appreciate you tuning in. Good slate tonight. It was a fun one yesterday. Wild slate. Multiple multi-home run games yesterday. Just got out of hand. That Yankees and Angels game went off. We talked about that one being a good opportunity for game stacking. The total implosion of Garrett Crochet, I don't think was something anybody had. I think 39% was his ownership on FanDuel. Nobody saw that one coming. That was rough. Didn't get out of the second inning, if memory serves, but ugly start there. But a really fun slate last night. We got a really interesting one today. A lot of good pitching spots on the board. A couple really interesting hitting spots. Yankees pulling a 5+ implied total to lead the slate again. They are the top-ranked stack again, although they're showing a little bit less power on the board against Reed Detmers than they were yesterday against Kikuchi, but a lot of upside. Angels coming up similar to yesterday as far as the power upside goes. All those big-time righty power bats against a lefty Ryan Weathers. Weathers is really nasty. He can be very, very good. He was dominant his last time out, had a great start, but I don't know. That one's a little tempting. 9-run total in that game to lead things off. Just under a 4-run on the Angels side, 5-1-4 on the Yankees side. You want the Yankees bats? I'm tempted by the Angels bats. Again, 4 of those guys over the magic number again, and we saw how that worked out last night. By the way, what a show between Mike Trout and Aaron Judge last night. Both guys hitting 2 home runs. That was the second time in MLB history that 2 3-time MVPs have hit 2 home runs in the same game. It was Aaron Judge and Mike Trout last night, and it was Stan Musial and Roy Campanella in 1956, I want to say. I didn't have to look at the text I sent my friends earlier. They had that up on one of the shows earlier today. Just amazing performance last night. We probably don't get a repeat of that, but it was a wild one, and it could be again in the Bronx. One of those teams I definitely expect to at least be involved in some fairly heavy scoring. We have the Yankees lineup in, not the Angels yet. The Marlins and the Braves kind of dove in there. Marlins and the Braves, Max Meyer against Reynaldo Lopez. Meyer decidedly middle of the board type starter, but the Braves are pulling a really nice total against him, just under 5 runs. That's the number 3 spot on the board by Vegas implied runs. They're one of the better looking stacks of the day. But give Meyer a little bit of credit for being at least somewhat competent. So maybe we don't get totally carried away with the Braves, but they've been good out of the gate. They are a good team, even with some underperformers. They've been good out of the gate. Austin Riley maybe taking a couple steps out of his coma and getting things going. So hopefully that bat arrives to some degree. But that's a solid looking spot for stacking. The Miami side going up against Ronaldo, another pitcher, upper middle class type option. I would say typically with Ronaldo, just going up against a fairly low end Miami lineup, sub 4 implied total for them. I think Ronaldo's entirely playable, looks pretty good. Marlins bats could get a little bit frisky though. They're at least worth a look as a cheapo entry point on either side. The Red Sox, the Twins, this is the one that got out of hand yesterday on Garrett Crochet. The Twins, we're going to have to watch them against lefties. They've gotten to 3 very high-end lefties. It was Crochet last night. It was Fromber, and apologies, I forget who the other one was, but another very high-end lefty already this season. So just interesting little wrinkle early, probably just early season blip, but something to watch. They do have some quality right-handed bats in that lineup. Tonight they get Sonny Gray on the bump for the Red Sox. He's got them checked down under 4 implied runs. He's been okay. The strikeouts haven't really been there, but he's been mostly effective. He's been giving us innings in his first 3 starts. Nothing to really worry about with Sonny, but the Twins, couple capable lefties in that lineup too, to come back the other way, the Matt Wallners of the world in terms of some power. So if Sonny's allowing contact, you always get a little bit worried there. 4.25 implied total on the Red Sox side going up against Mick Abel, who was tremendous in his last start, 6 shutout innings, 4-hitter against Detroit, struck out 6. Not a bad outing for him. So quality on all 4 corners of that one, I would say. I think the Red Sox are playable against Abel, but same thing for him going back the other way. Big spot in the Tampa Bay and Chicago game. 7.5 run total. Tampa Bay pulling into town with a 4.03 implied, but they're going up against the debut of Noah Schultz. Big time prospect for the White Sox. Their top overall prospect, top organizational prospect, number 40 something in MLB's pipeline, number 36 it looks like on FanGraph scouting reports. So by all accounts, a top 50 at least prospect and one of the top prospects in baseball on the mound. Big kid, lefty. He is 6'10", 240. So on the mound, he's 7.5 feet tall when he's releasing the ball. More than that. Just ridiculous and just nasty stuff. We might only get him for like five successful innings. Could punch out of the game pretty quickly. But dynamite stuff, could rack up some strikeouts, and good as that Rays team can be, that's not a bad target to make your debut against. And I think the Vegas total 4.02, maybe a quarter run or so high for that spot in my mind, but also not an unfair total, and it kind of reflects his talent just for a kid making his MLB debut against a decent quality lineup, at least up at the top. Definitely want to get some Schultz if you're building a bunch of lineups. If you're just building one, he's not going to be mandatory by any means. He's fairly priced, I would say, on both sides. Coming back the other way, it is Shane McClanahan, who's also interesting, going up against that White Sox lineup that is yet to really emerge for the season outside of some home runs from Murakami. But there are quality young bats in that lineup. They'll be up and comers as the season goes along. McClanahan, very talented, but scuffling over the first two. Couple few runs, hasn't gotten through the fifth inning in either of his first two starts. Good opportunity for him to get five completed here, but I don't know that we go beyond that, so maybe a little bit lower ceiling than some of the other starters. Good pitching matchup in Milwaukee as well. We get Kevin Gausman against Jacob Misiorowski, two premium strikeout options. Both guys have two double-digit strikeout games in their first three starts. Each guy has struck out 10 and 11 in two different games. Gausman did it against the Athletics and the Rockies, 11 against the Athletics, 10 against the Rockies, then dipped to just 5 against the Dodgers, but had a fairly effective day, went 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, 6 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks in his most recent outing. For Miz, 11 strikeouts in the first one, that was against the White Sox, then dipped to 7, but a good start against the Rays, gave up 2 runs on 4 hits over 6, and then struck out 10 over 5 1/3, 10 of 22 Red Sox at Fenway, 3 earned runs on 2 hits in that one. He did walk 4 in that one. He walked 3 in the first one. He's gotten away from him a little bit. Gausman a little bit more effective in terms of the strikeout to walk, but a minor issue between the two starters. Major upside for both, and they're both checking their teams down 3.40, call it implied total for the Blue Jays, and 3.68 implied for the Brewers. Two very good lineups, 7-run total, so it speaks to the pitching quality there. The Guardians and the Cards coming in with a heavy total because we have a near 90-degree day, I believe, out in St. Louis, just hitting weather, wind blowing out. Seems like some friendly upside. Is Joey Cantillo on the mound for the Guardians? I don't dislike Cantillo at all. Went 5 2/3, struck out 9 in his most recent outing. That was against the low strikeout Royals. Really interesting pitcher for his upside, mostly full-time role in the starting rotation right now. We'll see what that becomes over time. Had to adjust on the back end a little bit. Initially, it was reflected more for his more hybrid role with some innings in relief, and I kind of adjusted it to reflect more of a full-time starting gig because, again, he's 5 1/3, 5 2/3 in his last 2. He's gotten 3 straight starts. He is a part of this rotation. So definitely upside against that low-end Cardinals team, but I don't like the weather. I don't like that Vegas total, and the Cards, got to say, have been frisky. Our guy Jordan Walker just can't stop homering. He hit another one last night. He's got 8 now on the season. Mid-4s implied totals on both sides of that one. I have less of a problem targeting Michael McGreevy, who's on the mound for the Cardinals. I think you fire away with Guardians. That said, it's not the greatest lineup in the world. I know they've won some ball games along the way here. We do get Jose Ramirez in that spot. We get some upside for power from Kyle Manzardo. There are pieces and parts for sure in the Guardians lineup, but it's not a world-beating lineup either. But it's a great total. Looks like a prime spot. 9 runs. That ties the total in Yankee Stadium. for the highest of the day. The Rockies and the Astros. The Rockies are showing some interesting power. They're not really popping for Vegas runs, but they're power bats. Some of the guys up at the top of the lineup, and the home run pick of the day coming from the Colorado Rockies. Maybe some sneaky value there is my hope. We get them a little bit low owned. They're cheap. They're generally pretty bad, but they keep popping up for some interesting spots. Typically, we get to the Rockies when they're at home. We don't love them when they're on the road, but they're going up against Colton Gordon, who got recalled to make this start. The Astros just all kinds of damage to their starting rotation, so we're going to see a bunch of different people rotate through. I think Gordon will just be here for a minute. We'll probably see Spencer Arrighetti later this week, but they got some real problems there. Colton Gordon made a handful of starts in the show last year, 80-something innings. We'll look at it. Had a real issue with home runs. Even if it doesn't become a big outburst for run scoring, a 12-run type day for the Rockies, I do think we see some power upside for Colorado. So that gets kind of interesting. The Astros side is more obvious. They're on a losing streak, which I hadn't even clocked. I pay less attention to wins and losses generally. But that is a very good lineup that can be very productive, and they've been scoring more than 5 runs a game. So that 4.92 implied total is right on the money. They're going up against Michael Lorenzen. I see no reason not to fire away with Astros bats. The Rangers and the Athletics in that ballpark. Very good pitching matchup here. We get Mackenzie Gore against Jeffrey Springs. Springs has been effective over his first 3 this season. Had some issues in this ballpark last year, though. I think that's something to call out against an effective enough Texas lineup when they're pulling a mid-4s implied total against. Just speaks to the downside, the danger of pitching here. And then Mackenzie Gore's been tremendous out of the gate. He's seeing a 4.13 implied total from the Athletics. They do have a lot of power upside. Slow start from most of their bats. No Brent Rooker gives them some problems. I prefer Mackenzie Gore. I think he gets through it no problem. We saw Evaldi succeed there yesterday, but I don't love that ballpark for pitching just in general. But Mackenzie Gore, I think, gets through it. I don't really love targeting Jeffrey Springs. I think I lean more bats in that side of that matchup. Mariners and the Padres, low totals in that one, just a 7 run. It's Brian Wu. It's Michael King. Pretty terrific pair of righties to round things out toward the end of the night in a pitcher's park. Either of those lineups can definitely go off in any given slate and can get to pitchers as good as these two. You can go there, but it's a lower end spot. So not ideal there. And then not ideal in the next game at the end of the night either. Despite that 4.42 implied total for the Dodgers, that's going up against Dynamite Nolan McLean, the rookie for the Mets. And the Mets are going back against Yoshi Yamamoto. So not a lot of upside for their 3.17 implied total. They've been struggling to score runs without Juan Soto the last 7-8 games too. So big problems in New York. They'll get it figured out, though. Too much talent in that lineup overall. But not a great spot to end the night. No real late-night hammer there in terms of bats. Pitching, for sure. You can go to any of those 4 pitchers. Speaking of, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. We got a handful of people out there watching. People popping in and out. I'm sure some other stuff's going on in everybody's day. Here's our pitching board for the day. Some expensive prime options up toward the top. It tastes weird. I wanted to wait. I thought I would wait long enough. I brushed my teeth like 15 minutes before the show, so like a half hour ago. And I thought that would have been long enough to offset the weirdness of the taste of toothpaste and the bitterness of coffee, and it just was not. That was a not premium sip of coffee. We carry on. Yoshi Yamamoto, top of the board, I think justifiably so. Not that far removed, though, if you count down from, number 6, number 7 on the board are still projecting only a couple points behind that. So there's a lot of room up toward the top to flex around. You can play the ownership game a little bit where you think these guys are going to be overowned, underowned, play the pricing game a little bit. I think Sonny Gray is very interesting from that regard. He'll probably be a little bit underowned for the Twins just going off against good pitching recently, probably underowned just by comparison to the top of the board. People don't like him as much. That's a very good price. I think that's maybe a little less impactful because he will get swept up in the 2 pitcher combinations on DraftKings for SP2 at that price. But on FanDuel, especially at 85, I think he might slip between the cracks because people will be, trying to get to here and not quite making it, but defaulting into these guys to some degree. And I think Sonny slips through a little bit more because people are not going to go out of their way to grab him. So I think he's just interesting for that, but probably a little bit lower of a ceiling than some of these other guys. They're a little bit more elite, the younger starters on the board. Yamamoto, major upside against the Mets, and 8,800, not a bad price for him. He's off to a decent start. Brian Wu, just one of our favorites around here. 10-8, not unfair on FanDuel, but definitely a high price. 9,300, again, not a bad price at all on DraftKings, honestly. I don't love Gore at 10-5 on the FanDuel slate. I'm a much bigger fan of his at 8,600 on DraftKings. I think that accounts for that ballpark a little bit better. Again, a tremendous pitcher that I do like a lot. And if this game was being played in a neutral park, I'd be a little bit more okay with it at that price. But that is a big number to hang on him for this ballpark. Just a few runs. It's not even that he has to get blown up at that price. It's just a few runs are going to really damage what your difference is in the bats that you're able to buy just by paying down at starter. So you really would need him to go, 6-7 pretty clean innings with a solid handful of strikeouts for that money. Not that he can't do it. Again, there's a lot of upside for him to do that. But it's a problematic ballpark, and that is a good Athletics lineup on the other side, even without a couple pieces. Gausman, perfectly fine. We've seen the strikeout upside. I think those are the right prices. We know it can be a bit of a roller coaster from time to time, but he's been pretty much on the money to start the season. Strikeout to walk has been tremendous. So no issues with Kevin Gausman. I think he's appropriately just a notch behind some of those other guys in terms of projection, but it's a inconsequential difference. Those are all essentially the same projection for those top 5 guys. McClanahan not far behind with plenty of upside. I think the downside with McClanahan is this is more around just not only his fair projection, but I think also his ceiling just based on what the innings are probably going to look like. I think 5 maybe into a 6, but probably not through a 6th inning if all goes to plan, if all goes efficiently. And that's probably it. So probably a little bit lighter of a ceiling where any one of these guys can give you, 7 or more and get out to a 40, 50 point start. Miz, just a good lineup on the other side, fairly low strikeout Toronto lineup as well. But plenty of upside for him to go out there and find 8 to 10 strikeouts, do his thing over 6 innings, book a win, book a quality start. It's a good lineup in support of him as well. It's just his lineup facing a very good starter in his own right. So most likely we're getting an unpredictable win between those two starters and a very low scoring ball game there. Cantillo, as mentioned, not uninteresting for the prices. I couldn't really do anything that I thought would be fair to suppress his projection here. He just comes up fairly strong against that St. Louis team. And the upside created in that game for those runs is really just a factor of the weather. Right? So if they don't catch the weather the right way, I think we cruise to a decent spot for a fairly cheap Joey Cantillo, who is on the board for a decent strikeout total already this year, was a decent strikeout pitcher last year. I don't dislike that spot at all. Would play it on FanDuel, and I think he's a dynamite SP2 option on the DraftKings slate despite some downside for the environment today. Michael King is very fairly priced at 79 on DraftKings. That's a really interesting spot. Good as Seattle can be, we know they're scuffling to start the season. There are, even when they're going well, there are strikeouts in that lineup. And King's a very effective righty. 87 on FanDuel also works, but it's not the crazy generous discount against the rest of these upside starters that is. You can see he is offset by a little bit from the top options, but very fairly priced on DraftKings. McLean, just a little bit of a tax on his projection for facing the Dodgers. 10-8 also on 10,000 on FanDuel seems a little bit unfair. 8,300 is a lot more appropriate on DraftKings. A little bit of upside beyond the projection, but we're likely coming in at or around that number. Reynaldo Lopez, definitely upside at 75 on both sides against Miami. That is an interesting spot for SP2. There are good options going down the board for SP2 as well on DraftKings. Noah Schultz, no problem. 7,700 totally works. I'm sort of intrigued at 83 on FanDuel as well. I just am skeptical that he gets through the 6th inning and gets a quality start for me on a board where we're almost certainly going to need it, given the depth and given the upside for innings and wins and everything that those top guys give you, and quality starts, obviously. Ryan Weathers, primo lefty, 7,300, 7,000 is awfully interesting for a guy who had a great start last time out. In the long term, I'm really concerned that Aaron Boone was okay giving him 8 innings in his third start of the year. He hadn't thrown 8 innings but once in his entire career. This guy is always injury prone, but dynamite stuff when he's going right. If anything, that's under projected for this spot against a heavy strikeout Angels lineup. But I do fear those righty power bats when there's 4 of them showing 10 plus in the home run model. Weather's not immune to the home run. Lefty against all those righties gets a little bit hairy. But when we're paying those prices for him, plenty of room to find out. On the other side of that game, Reed Detmers can shut down these Yankees. 8,100 is fine. 6,500 is a lot better. Throwing that dart as an SP2, yeah, you're going up against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium with the highest total on the board and the only 5+ implied total. But Reed Detmers can pay that off. He's done so in the past. He's talented enough. We know the Yankees can underperform. We know they can swing and miss their way through a game. Nothing to do with last night's game at all, but it looks more like an offense spot to me. But I would play either pitcher given how they're priced. There's just enough upside for either of these guys to get through. Either. I said both. Max Meyer, playable, 72, 78, not entirely crazy. I just think he's kind of unnecessary. Probably should be priced more, close to 7,000 than 8,000. Would be a little bit more fair on DraftKings. Flip those prices, 78 FanDuel, 72 DK. I'm more interested. Jeffrey Springs is a no for me, but I can see it at 8,000 as an option. But again, deep slate for pitching. I see no need to go to Jeffrey Springs in that ballpark where he struggled last year. Mick Abel, it wouldn't surprise me if he did again. Kid's talented. He's very, very cheap. You're just taking a shot against a decent underperforming Red Sox lineup with an unproven overall starter. But he could spike a decent start up into at least competitive with these guys, the Joey Cantillos, the Michael Kings of the world. Colton Gordon's a hard no. Michael McGreevy's a hard no. Michael Lorenzen's a hard no. If he's named Michael, you don't want him. No, actually, that's not true. Michael King. It's a triple Michael slate. Let's get into some game by game. Whole bunch of lineups just dropped. Let's see if we got this one. We do. Good way to start things off. We drop this one in. We'll get them as we go. All right. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel as we get started on the game by game. And we'll dive on in. Cub saying Sonny throws too many pitches per batter. He's not striking anyone out. Yeah, the strikeouts are the real concern. The inefficiency's kind of always been there. But the lack of strikeouts so far has been a concern. He was fine for strikeouts last year, though. Pirates and Twins been swinging them sticks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pirates out of the gate. Real strong. O'Neill Cruz crushing it. Yeah, Crochet, Fromber. Who was the other one, though, Mylance? I think there's a third lefty that they got to as well. I remembered Fromber because we were going after him that day against them too. Anyway, that's the Twins going back to a moment ago. So good one to get us started here. Again, this was the flashpoint for the slate last night. We talked about it being a good spot to game stack yesterday, and these teams actually fit together pretty well. The one issue is the overabundance of outfielders. You want 3 of the outfielders from the Angels if you're just playing the home run game, which is exactly how I was targeting it. Like Neto is an easy fit because the Yankees don't have a must-have shortstop. But you want all 3 of those outfielders on the Angels. So on DraftKings, that bumps into the Yankees pretty hard. On FanDuel, it's a little bit less so because you've got that util spot to work with. You've got some flex, but it's on guys like Ahmed Rosario and Jose Caballero in this version of the lineup. If you had Cody Bellinger, you would have more flex there. No Jazz Chisholm in the lineup against the lefty today. They do have Trent Grisham in the lineup for the Yankees against the lefty. He had a 2 home run game off the bench yesterday. So these versions actually, given that collision in the outfield, maybe don't fit together quite as well. But there are obviously ways, if you're embracing the Paul Goldschmidts of the world, you get on FanDuel one of Aaron Judge and Carlos Stanton into it. But it's a little bit lighter. You can also see a little bit lighter overall if you just follow the daily totals down here as far as the fantasy points for this version of the Yankees lineup. These are just guys who don't project quite as well as the Jazz Chisholms of the world. When you get Ahmed Rosario in here hitting third, when you get Jose Caballero, he's in there on basically a day-to-day basis, but he's not doing anything to push the average down. So the average is pulled down slightly with this version of the lineup. Goldie's a part of that up at the top. But these guys are in here for the lefty on the mound. So far, Boone has been stacking the lineup with some right-handed talent to start out against lefties and then pinch hitting the Ben Rice as the lure. We saw Rice get in yesterday. I mentioned Trent Grisham. Didn't start yesterday, but came into the game. We'll potentially see Jazz Chisholm do that today. Jazzy hasn't exactly been roaring hot lately, though, so maybe we just give him the full day off. Interesting lineups in either direction, though. Ryan Weathers, as mentioned, very good start to the season for him. You can see Stuff Plus measuring out fairly well. I updated these, so these are reflecting this year's Stuff Plus, by the way, now that we're 3 games in. 2.81 ERA with a matching xFIP, decent Sierra for Weathers. Last time out, 8 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 7, walked 0 against the Athletics in Yankee Stadium. Could easily zip through the Angels to the same degree. Hopefully, I wouldn't want to see him go 8 back-to-back here. Certainly has the upside to do it, but I'm very concerned in the long term. In the short term, I think we probably get a decent 6-inning start out of him, but you can see for yourself the 4 guys right there, all big-time right-handed power bats, all above the magic number for a home run. Maybe it's a day where they just, they hit 1 2-run shot and that's it over his 6 innings and he cruises and he's fine and we get a good fantasy score. But I'm skeptical about that sub-4 total. It's just under 4. Detmers on the other side, I'm more enthusiastic about the Yankees given the 5+ implied total. You get Judge, you get Stanton, both over the magic number there, and then you just get some quality around them in a decent-looking spot. Detmers, 15 2/3 to start the season over his 3 starts, 24.6% strikeouts so far. That amounts to 1 6 2/3 inning start, and then 2 starts where he didn't get out of the 5th inning. Gave up 5 in one of those, 3 in the other one. He did strike out 9 in his first start of the season. That was the 3-run game. That was against the Astros at Houston. So decent strikeout day, and could definitely have that kind of a day against these Yankees. He might give up 5 earned runs, but still come away with 8-9 strikeouts if he pitches into the 6th inning. So does have that kind of upside, but also has the upside to suppress the Yankees offense overall. He's not really 3 years ago, he had a home run issue, or 2 years ago. When was that? 2 years ago, 2024. He gave up a 4.60% home run rate over 17 starts. But his 63 2/3 in relief wasn't problematic last year. So far this year hasn't been problematic for premium contact or power. Again, three starts is meaningless. Going back to 2023 as a full-time starter, 28 outings, 148 2/3. Didn't have any issues with home runs or barrels. Was decent at inducing like medium contact. So not a total target on the mound by any means. Just fairly priced, 65. That's why I would consider him. And it's the same for Weathers. They're both very cheap. Top of the Angels lineup, again, if you're rostering this team, it's for a reason. It's because of those 4 big right-handed bats. Once you get to the middle of this lineup, things tend to trail off a little bit. Vaughn Grissom, mix and match piece at second base, 2,300, 2,100. He's not unfairly priced. You just take him for the roster spot and to cheapen things up if you want to stretch out to a 5-man. I did promise somebody in Discord, by the way, that we would talk a little bit about how baseball lineups are constructed. I'll get to that in a second. Logan O'Hoppe, Joan Moncada, Oswald Peraza, Bryce Tedosio going down the lineup. Peraza's kind of interesting. We've talked about him on and off a little bit. He's been in the lineup almost every day. Former top-end prospect going up against his the former organization here. Revenge for the people who like to chase that non-existent thing. He's not terrible. He's a talented guy. Fits into multiple spots for cheap prices for DFS. Pair of home runs, a stolen base on the board. Had a rip-roaring spring. Never has fulfilled his talent at the major league level in any way. But the fact that they keep rolling him out there and the fact that the Angels have been good at these redemption projects has me at least a little bit intrigued when I consider this team. And he's just a good moving part to fit in with all these outfielders. You obviously don't want him at shortstop on FanDuel because that's where Zach Neto goes. Tedosio's here for defense. Neto from the top spot, one of the best shortstops on any slate, 5 home runs on the board, a 149 WRC plus, just out there doing his thing. Mike Trout, pair of bombs yesterday, 4 home runs on the board for the season, a pair of stolen bases is nice to see. Trout running on the bases and playing center field again has to mean he's mostly healthy. We'll always see him take bumps and get banged up in weird ways, but he's coming in with a 27.9% barrel rate over a handful of batted ball events. He's looking a lot like Mike Trout to me, outside of maybe the batting average again, but killing it. 152 WRC plus, a monster 476 xWOB under his 395 actual. Joe Adele, Jorge Soler, major power bats. 5 home runs between them. Adele not off to a bad start with the bat overall, 309, 347, 368. Just the 1 home run, but he stole a base already. Wasn't really running last year, so it's nice to see him run at least early. Limited strikeouts so far, also limited walks, but we don't really care about the walks if Adele's not going to strike out this year. I don't think that's going to be the case ongoing, but it's just kind of interesting that he hasn't so far. Maybe not swinging out of his shoes quite as much. 37 home runs. He is a major, major source of power. Jorge Soler, nice to see him with 4 home runs on the board after a light year last year. So it's the top 4 guys in any priority order. Obviously, for me, I would still say Mike Trout up top, but there's a good argument to be made that the shortstop would go on top of those rankings right now. On the Yankees side, Paul Goldschmidt in the leadoff spot, pretty cheap, getting in there against the lefty again. 250, 438, 667 with a 417 ISO and 3 home runs on the board in his 16 plate appearances so far. I like him for one against Reed Detmers here. 6.32 in the model. I didn't want to take Judge again today. I had him yesterday when he had the 20 plus and he went deep twice. Not for the overall, but the one from the Yankees. I only take him once. My rule is I take Aaron Judge once a year and Shohei Ohtani once a year for the overall pick. And I don't take anybody from Coors Field. Those are the rules. But Judge coming into this one with a 17.57. Stanton a couple spots behind with a 12 plus. I didn't want to go with either of those guys, but I did want to grab one of the righties. So I figured Goldie, why not? Off to a hot start in terms of the power upside with the home run on the board. I said 4 home runs. I meant 1 home run. Excuse me. I was looking at the wrong column. I didn't think he had 4. 250, 438, 667 start with the bat and the 417. ISO is very real. 12.5% barrel in his limited number of batted ball events so far. And again, just in there to hit against left-handed pitching. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge at any price. Absolutely pull that trigger. 6 home runs for him. Ahmed Rosario getting just fairly regular plate appearances lately. For today, he's mostly in there to hit against left-handed pitching, but he's getting an opportunity. He's not out of the gate poorly. 2 home runs on the board, 308, 345, 654, 172 WRC plus in a meaningless sample of 29 plate appearances. But for a kid who came up in the Met system as a top-end prospect, has bounced along with some okay numbers, but nothing special over the last handful of seasons. Finding his way into more regular plate appearances and succeeding is just a very good thing. He's barreled a couple balls along the way out of so far. He's hit a couple big home runs. Giving him a shot, hitting between Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. You can't ask for a better spot in the batting order. Another righty bat, and he's cheap, fits into multiple spots, including second base. Stanton is Stanton, fire away. Major source of power. Good start with the bat for him, a 136 WRC plus. Just 1 home run, but the power is going to come. The premium contact is going to come. He's already at a 12.8% barrel rate, which is low for him, but that'll skyrocket soon with more contact. Grisham, even lefty-lefty, I'm kind of interested. A couple really good plate appearances last night would get his season started. Both those home runs came last night. Randall Grichuk, we've talked about him. 30-plus home runs, 1 season, multiple seasons over 20. Good right-handed bat that's always made very good premium contact against the lefty pitcher. I like that upside for cheap in the Yankees outfield. If you want to click away from the other obvious outfielders in this game, getting some Randall Grichuk into your life at those prices is not a bad option against a left-handed pitcher. For the season so far, over 14 plate appearances, 4 runs scored if you want to cling to something, negative 78 WRC plus. I promise he's better than that. Even his batted ball events, 42.9% barrel rate and a 57.1% hard hit in what's probably 3 batted ball events. Austin Wells, Jose Caballero, and Ryan McMahon going down the batting order. Wellesley, not a great start to his year, does have a home run finally in his 50 plate appearances, mostly just here for limited power from the left side, 20-ish home run upside over the full season, but don't expect much in terms of the slash line from Austin Wells. He's all right at the dish, but it's mostly about the pop. Caballero steals bases when he happens to get on. Not a bad option, and Ryan McMahon has been better than this over the course of time. Does have 20 home run upside still from the left side, the ability to draw a walk and get on base. He's just been really limited to start the year over 45 plate appearances, but way better than that. This does go, for me anyway, Yankees bats, Angels bats, Ryan Weathers, Reed Detmers. I would say all 4 things at least loosely playable given how they priced the pitching, but I'm probably more interested in the bats again. Long wind up on that game. Lots to talk about through that one. All right, so yeah, somebody asked about no Colt Keith needs second base replacement for Nick Handy. Are you talking about I was like, Colt Keith, not on this slate. Talking about 635. I mean, Glaber's right there. That's just an easy grab from that same lineup. If you have a Tiger stack, I would just go to Gleyber Torres. McKinstry short third only. I don't know what you had Colt Keith priced at. That's the problem as far as shouting somebody out at second base. That's a lefty. I don't like that. I don't hate Luis Garcia Jr. at 2,800 in that Nats Pirates game going up against Mitch Keller, hitting second. Not like a runaway freight train of a player, but he's off to a pretty decent start in terms of hitting for average, doing his thing. He's hit a couple balls hard so far this year. If you got more to spend, wait a minute. Are you playing on FanDuel or DraftKings? Ketel Marte is pretty cheap on both, but if you happen to be playing on FanDuel, Ketel Marte is only 3,000 on that early slate, and I don't know why. Geraldo Perdomo at shortstop's only 28. There's some good options. You don't really have a problem. Matt McLean for 2,700. That's FanDuel again. Matt McLean for 3,600 on DraftKings is not uninteresting against Robbie Ray. Guy's always got a problem with contact. McLean righty against the lefty there, a little bit of power upside. This is just me looking at Fantasy Labs right now, trying to find you second baseman. We'll get back to this slate in a minute. I think those are at least a couple good options. Hopefully that helped. Anyway, we wanted to talk real quick about building lineups. Somebody asked in Discord in a DM who doesn't play baseball all that often, but was looking to get into it. What do you do for building baseball lineups? Does it work the same as in basketball? Is it the same principles? And the answer to that is dramatically no. Basketball is all about the individual, and baseball is all about chasing stacking and correlated scoring. All right, so what you primarily want to be doing is grabbing multiple players from the same lineup, right? So we're looking to, I have the stack rankings here again today. That's why we rank out the stacks, right? So the Yankees come together as the top overall stacks by projection, a little bit lighter than that for value, a little bit knocked down the board for home run. They rank 4th by home run. You get some other stacks. Texas ranks out strong for value on both sites. So we'll want to remember that probably as we try and put together a lineup here real quick. So let's say, just looking at this board, they'll both be probably pretty chalky. But let's say we want to grab some Texas playing in that Oakland ballpark or that Sacramento ballpark against Jeffrey Springs, showing some upside here, and some Yankees. And then we'll see what fits with pitching. The reason we want to go to correlation is for how baseball works. Where in basketball, in football, there's limited correlation. If a quarterback throws a touchdown pass, it's going to go to a receiver. They both score points. That's kind of the same principle, in that you stack a little bit in football. It's more dramatic in baseball because there's multiple guys on base. You're chasing the big scoring event. So Aaron Judge hits a 3-run home run. That creates scoring for multiple other guys in that lineup who are connected to him by a certain number of potential plate appearances. For a guy hitting second in the batting order, the guy who's hitting 7th is necessarily more removed from him than the guy hitting 9th because that wraps back around to the 2 spot. Right. So there's those gaps in between. You want to be considering that to a minimal degree, how far removed those guys are, especially if you're short stacking, if you're going for a 3-man stack. Typically I like building full stacks, 5-3, 5-2-1 on DraftKings, 4-3-1, 4-4 on FanDuel. You can dabble with 3-3-2 on FanDuel and different combinations, but I like chasing fairly full stacking. There's negative correlation in football and basketball, as Cubs mentioned as well, where guys take things away from one another. There's only 1 rebound to grab, only 1 assist to be had. So it just drives, it's all about chasing that correlation. And baseball, just with the limited potential for success, given how the sport works in general, you don't want to chase individual outcomes. You can chase the rising tide effect of a good lineup going off. Helps everybody for the most part. Where if you're just trying to spot, all right, that guy projects well, just because a guy projects well, you do your job 30% of the time in baseball, you could probably go into the Hall of Fame. So just because a guy projects well on any given slate is not as strong an indicator of probable success as a good basketball projection. It just works differently, linear versus nonlinear. So hopefully that makes some sense. I'm going to actually forgo sitting here building a full lineup now that I'm thinking it through. No, I won't. Let's just do it real quick. So what did I say we wanted? Yankees and Texas? We do this. Just want to eyeball this pricing. We don't have the Texas lineup yet. That's not the greatest fit in the world either, honestly. We could take Higgy out of that one. This is, I'm sure, exciting for everybody to watch. Rosario, that's probably going to make things work. So it looks like I'm leaning, that's 3 Yankees. This is another combination where you got kind of a lot of outfielders in play, though. I don't need Nimmo, but I would want probably Langford. You can't get to Jake Berger and Goldschmidt. It doesn't make this combination quite as strong, I don't think, on DraftKings as it might be on FanDuel, where you could go like Berger in the util and Goldie in the first base spot. Just putting it as the Yankees and Rangers specifically stacked up together, but we keep going with it real quick. Langford. I don't really like Josh Young. Maybe we leave that for a one-off. What do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4 Yankees, 3 Rangers. So I go on another one there. And then 21K left to spend. So again, chasing the principle of wanting to get the correlation between the upside events. If Aaron Judge isn't going deep, he's very likely getting on base ahead of Giancarlo Stanton. Paul Goldschmidt's hitting immediately ahead of Aaron Judge. These guys are tied together. Ahmed Rosario's hitting between these guys. So you're getting the entire top of the Yankees lineup on a day. Again, they're going to be super chalky, but they're the primo stack of the day. So that's what we're chasing with the correlated scoring there. It's the same for the other team. They just come up as one of the better values, so I just grabbed them off the board there. But then let's see. Who was I saying was crazy good pricing on DraftKings? Let's see what we can fit together here. We'll just take Yamamoto and Sonny Gray. See how that fits together. That leaves us a $4,000 option at third base. So we could take somebody at third base from either of those teams and fill out our stack. Or we can take a one-off third baseman at 4,000 there. And that's where you can go, all right, there's somebody who looked great with a home run value at third base, and nobody immediately springs to mind. But if there was, you could say, all right, I can go away from correlation in that spot, and I'm taking my upside guy there. And you can do that again in 2 spots in a lineup while you're having 3-3 type correlation across the other 2 teams. But that's generally, that's the immediate approach. You like to identify which 2 stacks I think is the best way to do it that you're going to go with. Put in your upside pieces, and then start just, building out your value guys. And then I would do, make the decision to hop over to which pitchers fit, or do it the other way around. Some people build one way, some people build the other way. Pop your 2 pitchers in that you want, or 1 pitcher, see what bats fit. And it's just a matter of, mashing things together. But always, always, always want to be focused on stacking in baseball. That's the most important principle, number 1 top thing you can do. And I think the best way to get different is just on the mound. There are always underowned, underappreciated pitchers, a lot of the time with very good value pricing. So that's the way I think it pays to get very different. Hey, Cubs, yeah, that's another good point. The sites don't price superstars, role players, basically anybody overly correctly most nights. It's another reason it's not a one-to-one with how to approach basketball. Basketball, mostly very efficient pricing outside of when things change and something unpredictable, which happens every single night. That's why we have to chase basketball constantly and be like right in front of it. Baseball just kind of is what it is. And you put it together in the morning, as long as the lineup doesn't change, not much about that situation is going to change. But guys are constantly priced wrong, which means when you build these stacks out, it's more important to get the scoring correlation than to spend all of your salary in baseball. So that stack that I just built happens to have spent out, I had the two fairly expensive pitchers in there, and it happens to have spent out most of the money. And there was 4,000 left for that last third base spot. But if I grabbed a 31, say both the third basemen on both those teams were 3,100 apiece, and it left 900 of salary on the table, but I had that full, 5-3 or 4-4 stack with two very good pitching options, totally fine. There's no requirement to spend all of your salary in baseball. It's nice to do. If you've got it left over, typically for me, I find that I'll have salary left over when I'm looking for pitching. After the lineup comes together, that's where I like to spend it. So if I've already booked pitching and I'm building out the lineup and then I come up with, oh, damn, I have $1,800 left, it's immediately not, let me take out the first baseman that I used and put somebody from a different team in there. It's let me see what I can do on the mound. Which of these pitchers can I upgrade? Which of these pitchers can I change out both pitchers? But there is no requirement. Say you've got the two best pitchers of the day, your two top stacks of the day, and they fit together and there's, 1,800 left on the board, leave it. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Marlins and the Braves after all that. Hopefully that's helpful to some people out there. Do like to remember that not everybody's used to baseball. Not everybody knows how the different sports work and go together. And somebody asked. So Max Meyer, as mentioned, not completely terrible. 22.4% strikeout. Too many walks so far over his 3 starts. His 14 and 2/3. 3.68 ERA, but a 4.25 xFIP. He was just over 4 across the board last year. 4.73 ERA, 3.51 x. Excuse me. Incorrect about that. Was it the year before? Must have been somebody else I was thinking of. 4.73 ERA, but he's better than over 4 across the board, and he wasn't giving him enough credit. 3.51 xFIP, 3.72 Sierra. The concern is the high whip. 1.42 whip, but it was only against the 7% walk rate over those 64 and 2/3 in his 12 starts last season. So it didn't come because he was losing hitters to walks. He was losing hitters to some BABIP. Still missed bats at nearly a 12% rate, 11.9% swinging strike rate. That's an interesting enough pitcher. So far this season, that's up at 12.5%, 30 CSW. Not bad. He's just got to cut the walks back down and no problems here. Just not a great spot. The Braves have been strong out of the gate as far as run creation. A lot of guys way above average via WRC plus so far. Nice to see for a team that's kind of bounced along over the last couple of seasons. So definite upside for the Braves. They're pulling in the third highest total of the day at 4.76 against Meyer. But it wouldn't knock me out of my chair if he had an okay day for the money at those prices. Even found a few strikeouts along the way. Again, slightly above average, maybe around average strikeout pitcher when it's all said and done. This version of the Braves lineup, 19% strikeout rate this year, or 19.8, just under 20, 19.5 last year. But there are some Ks, and some of the key hitters do strike out a little bit through this lineup. So Meyer, again, 5-6 strikeout day over 6 innings wouldn't stun me. More likely, we're going to see the Braves go off. You have 3 hitters in this lineup above the magic number for home run upside. You've also got Reynaldo Lopez looking kind of interesting on the mound at 7,500 going up against a low-end Marlins team. 20% strikeout rate over 3 starts, 15 and 2/3 for Ronaldo, 1.15 ERA, but a 4.47 xFIP, 4.13 Sierra, definitely more the concern. Last season, just 1 start, 5 innings. Obviously, we can't talk about that, but 134 and 2/3 in 25 starts 2 years ago, 3.46 xFIP under a 2.0 ERA. Very strong numbers across the board. Obviously, full run and a half higher, but still not a bad mark. 12.2% swinging strike rate, struck out 27% of hitters. Good starter. Definitely a talented guy, good target, sub-4 implied total. I see no reason that Ronaldo wouldn't be very usable here, which I think makes him very popular here, given how that's priced. There are a lot of options on the board today. If he gets crazy, crazy popular, if you're looking at ownership elsewhere, or if you're just a little hesitant about it, I have no issues going around him. But I think he's going to have a pretty effective start here. There are bats to use against him, though. I don't think the Marlins are off the board in terms of what their total looks like, in terms of this matchup against Ronaldo, not a premium strikeout pitcher. And there's enough talent via the hit tool with a lot of these guys. They steal bases. They've been decent run creators. Jacob Marcy, not off to a great start at a 43 WRC+, but coming off a very successful year last year. If he's in the leadoff role again, I got to see if this lineup's in. 7 stolen bases for Marcy last year. So far this year is at least something for fantasy scoring. So as long as he can get on base a little bit, create some havoc out there, even if he's not hitting for power, he's at least somewhat interesting. But he had a little bit of sneaky pop last year as well. So I think if we get Marcy in the leadoff spot, despite the slow start, he becomes interesting. And then we get into some guys who have been producing to start this year and some guys who have some actual talent. Xavier Edwards, I'm extremely interested in. 359, 414, 516 to start the season, 161 WRC plus, just a 328 xWOBA under the 414 actual. But he is one of these guys who can succeed via and defy xWOBA via speed and just BABIP, right? He can beat out, kind of like Chandler Simpson that way, where these guys can just beat out the expectation by putting the ball in play and using their speed. And Edwards has a very, very good hit tool. We've seen it in the past. It's also shown a little bit of pop in the past. So I'm very interested to see where that one goes. Very much in play. 48, not unfair. 35, not unfair, but maybe priced up slightly for the hot start here against Ronaldo. Everybody else is at least affordable. Liam Hicks is maybe priced up a little bit too. But Agustin Ramirez is not at 3,800 where you need catchers, 29 where you don't. 1 home run on the board. Saw a tremendous season from him last year as a rookie. Love the upside for him, and good alternative to Liam Hicks at the catcher spot. You can use them both with Hicks having first base eligibility for 45 on DK. 34 or 45 for Hicks. Not unfair. 3 home runs on the board. 319, 375, 32 start to his season. Last year, 6 home runs and 390 plate appearances, so I would say this is a bit of a power outburst so far. We'll see if it's real. It's probably not. It's basically a doubling of his barrel rate, but that's from only 3.5 to only 6.5 in the small sample. Otto Lopez, good start for him as well. 317, 364, 517. Again, these guys have been frisky. I wouldn't say they're good, but they're at least somewhat interesting, and they're still fairly cheap. 13.7% barrel rate for Otto, 52.9% hard hit. Probably not going to last. Would represent a major, major step forward in terms of premium contact for that hitter. But it's at least interesting. He's somebody we do expect to hit for some average. Owen Casey, I do think, is going to barrel the ball consistently throughout the year. Probably not at 22%, but I think it'll be fairly consistent. I think he chases 20-plus home runs. He's got 2 already on the board after a good WBC, 51 plate appearances in the show. Been pretty successful this year, 126 WRC plus for him. Connor Norby, we mentioned, is maybe an interesting wild card home run pick yesterday. I think he hit 1. He's got 2 on the season, 58 plate appearances. Also got a 379 on base, 139 WRC plus to start the year. Not bad. I just don't love the first base of it. First base, third base on FanDuel. I would rather he had middle infield eligibility, but you can play him at the corners. If you're going to this team already, he becomes a piece. If you're not going to this team, he's not a reason to. But he's barreled a few. He's made some decent contact to start the year. He's a guy who had some prospect pedigree coming up. So is Graham Pauley. 2,600, 2,300 for him. Not a good start for him over 38 plate appearances. We've never really seen it land in the show, but he's very cheap if you're just flexing around this lineup. He's a lefty to throw at right-handed Ronaldo here. And then Javier Sanoa, mix and match piece from the bottom with some positional flex. Not a bad start with the stick for him. 1 stolen base on the board, getting on at a 359 clip. You can see the light hitter in the 261 xWOB under the 351 actual, though. Maybe he becomes one of these guys who can also use his hit tool and speed to defy xWOBA. Probably not. On the Braves side, we know these guys a little bit better, I think. Ronnie Acuna is a superstar. Just ignore the 77 light plate appearances. Is getting on at a 338 clip. Has a 410 xWOBA under the surface. 104 WRC plus even in a slow start. Monster upside and stupid cheap at 3,100 on FanDuel. That is like... That offends me as a DFS price. I know he's there. It's just the shock value every time I see it. I know he's been there at that price the last few days. He's priced the same as Dom Smith and Mauricio Dubon. Tell me that FanDuel doesn't have reactionary pricing. 5,500 on DraftKings is entirely fair. He's a 6,000, 4,000 plus player. Drake Baldwin at 47 where you need catchers, 4,000 where you don't. I would argue a little bit cheap on DK. 4,600 for Matty Olson, not unfair. 2 players off to very good starts. It's a lot of power showing between the two. 5 home runs for Baldwin, 4 home runs on board for Olson. 2 prime players in very good starts from the left side going up against a, again, lower end righty. Max Myers had a little bit of an issue with barrels so far this year. Hasn't led to a bunch of home runs, but a couple. Last year, 9.2% barrel, but it came on a light launch angle, just 8.7 degrees, still amounted to 4.21% home runs. So maybe some problems with the power upside. Both those guys over the magic number for power. Excuse me, Baldwin just under, Olson over, Austin Riley also over. 3,700, 2,800 for Austin Riley, who's stealing bases. He's got 2 on the board already, 324 on base. At least he's doing that. A couple decent pieces of contact, though. Maybe we see the switch finally flip for Austin Riley, and at least we get back to last year's production, because so far he's been underperforming even that low-end mark. Former 30 home run guy for multiple seasons in a row, though. Not giving up on Austin Riley. He's very, very cheap in a lineup that you want to get to today. Mike Yastrzemski, Ozzie Albies, Dom Smith, Michael Harris, Mauricio Dubon. Options galore down through the bottom of the lineup. What you don't want to do for the going back to the lineup building conversation real quick is grab a full stack of just like 5 of those guys. Right? These guys are your filler. These guys are your priorities. And typically that's how most lineups are going to work. That's also going to be reflected in the pricing, the projections, and all of that. It's going to be very obvious as you're stacking this up anyway. But just to make that totally clear, yeah, there's correlation, and those guys together can absolutely win you slates. And if you have one lineup that has those guys and a bunch of lineups that have a mix of those guys and the guys up at the top, that's fine as an approach. But your priority is not to stack up the entire bottom of any of these lineups. You want to mix in the good hitters, the big home run bats, the guys who create the big DFS scoring events, as well as the guys who have the correlated scoring around them. But as always, as I said, those guys, the Dom Smiths of the world, Dom Smith has 3 entirely unowned home runs already this season. It's a really interesting bat. He's always been able to hit for average. Once upon a time, he was regarded as a big-time prospect. He was never that guy once he got here. But he's hit for average a few times. He's got a low strikeout rate, puts a lot of balls in play. And if he's found the power stroke even a little bit this year, and barrels are up slightly to suggest maybe he has, becomes more interesting from the left side. He's getting regular plate appearances in this lineup. You just don't want him instead of Matt Olson at first base on DraftKings. FanDuel, you can flex him around. Util spot, he's also got outfield eligibility. Yaz is a good outfielder who's hit a bunch of home runs over the last handful of years. Always makes good to fair, upper medium type contact. 8% barrel, 42% hard hit last year, but 10.5 the year before that, 9.8% barrel the year before that one. Albies struggled for a couple years in a row there, but out of the gate at 288, 333, 424 this year, a 112 WRC plus. Problem is right there, 340 WOBA so far, but only a 283X. It's a little concerning, but we got to give him a chance. This is a former, all-star caliber talent. This is a good lineup, 1 through 9 on basically any given slate. Harris, tons of upside against any given righty. Many good batted ball events already this season. 16.3% barrel, 46.5% hard hit rate, 2 home runs on the board. Not a bad start for him. Another guy who has underperformed the last couple of seasons, but 2020 and above talent. And then Dubon's just filler, mix and match type of a guy. But the Braves, going back to that point, going down through these guys are stronger than a lot of teams. You got to think in terms of, to some degree, big market, small market with that. The Braves, decent market, a lot of talent down through the bottom. The Marlins, not so much. The Yankees, big market, a lot of talent down through the bottom of the lineup. The Dodgers, the Mets. Some of these teams are 9-man teams. Some of these teams are 5-man teams. So you got to think through that as you're stacking as well. Again, that'll be reflected in your projections and your pricing. Braves bats, Ronaldo, Max Meyer, Marlins bats. Many baseballs back to you. I'm not sure how to say that name. Are you able to pronounce that name? This isn't somebody's name that I'm making fun of. This is in chat. It's AERBGSYKGJ. We need to buy at least one vowel. Welcome, though. Many baseballs to you. Michael Botcher's driving and popping in, saying hi. Appreciate you, buddy. Bo Sox, Twins. Twins absolutely detonated Garrett Crochet yesterday. Woo! Quality Soul saying Albies or Yaz. Let me click back real quick. Oh, come on. We don't want to do that. This entire file froze on me like halfway through putting pitching together today, and I had to go start over again. So I was nervous starting the show. Boy, they're hitting right next to each other. I don't dislike that discount on Yaz at 32. I assume that's is that a FanDuel question or a DraftKings question? Since they're wildly different positions. There's a bigger price gap between them on DraftKings. I would say probably Yaz on the DraftKings slate for the cheapo price, even though he's off to a slow start. On FanDuel, if you're debating between the two, probably lean Ozzie Albies. Better overall player in the long term. Off to a consistently hot start right now. Ozzie will also be hitting from the left side. But that's not a bad back and forth. If you can buy something with the $200, I have no issues going to Yaz. Yaz slightly ahead in the home run model, 6.82 to Ozzie's 6.01. So yeah, I would say it comes down to what you can do with that $200 on FanDuel, which probably isn't too much. But if it makes the difference between getting to a good pitcher or not, then absolutely take the discount, go Yaz. I would probably take the $700 discount and do something interesting with it on DraftKings. But again, different positions on DraftKings, so I imagine that was a FanDuel question. All right, Red Sox, Twins, grab lineups with the gas pedal on this one a little bit. Been dragging my way through these first couple of games. We talked about lineup building. Hopefully things are going well and everybody's getting something out of this show. But let's dive in and accelerate our way through Sonny Gray, 8,200, 8,500, fairly priced, decently projected. We talked about the lack of strikeouts over his first couple, but he's not been bad. 2.76 ERA, a little bit underwhelming in the xFIP to SIERA, but both under 4, 3.75, 3.84. I like Sonny to continue his success. I don't think he's all of a sudden shot. Last year was successful. Came away with a 26.7% strikeout against a 5% walk, 21.65 strikeout minus walk rate, 4.28 ERA, but a 3.07, 3.29 xFIP in SIERA. So dynamite in terms of the underlying numbers against a weaker ERA last year. This is an also excellent predictor of future ERA. So totally believable that he would sustain a 3-ish type ERA going forward. It's just a matter of whether the strikeouts come back, but I don't really have a ton of indicators to say that they wouldn't. So far, just a 7% swinging strike rate. I know I just said we would accelerate, but now I'm curious. We'll accelerate after we talk about Sonny Gray. Interesting. All right, so we talked about the other day when you see something that's more of a strategic change than a decline in velocity, stuff not biting as much, so on and so forth. It's either a good indicator if something's gone really well for a pitcher and he's done something different, I think it was when we were talking about Eduardo Rodriguez the other day with his different pitch mix. Sonny so far appears to be using a slightly different pitch mix. Last year, he was throwing the four-seamer 21.7% of the time. This year, that's down so far in his couple starts to 17.5%. The cutter is way up from 12.6% up to 23.7%. And this has not been his approach in seasons past. Might just be something they tinkered with over these first few starts. I really honestly haven't followed it. The cutter's been a very effective pitch for him. 188 slug against the 302 X slug, 280 X WOBA against the pitch so far this year. The four-seamer been hit a little bit, but not really. The sinker's been hit hard. He's throwing the sinker around the same, slightly more. The curveball right about the same. Spin rates are fine. Actually, the spin rate on the curveball slightly up. That's interesting. I think I don't think there's major issue. It just might be he's getting a little bit less whiff. Oh, the sweeper usage is down. That's slightly. Sweeper went down from 19.2 and being like his wipeout pitch last year to just 15% in the small sample so far. 42.4% whiff rate last year down to 33.3. He only threw a handful of sliders, so we won't count those. Those are also mostly off the board so far. So yeah, between the sweeper usage being down and the whiff rate, there's a minor decline on the whiff rate on the cutter with the usage going up. And I think that might just be impacting the swing and miss against his overall arsenal. Like the whiff rate on the curveball went from 33.3 down to 22.2 so far. Again, we're talking about 3 starts, but it is a different pitch mix. So something to watch there. That is, again, something that when it's working against the guy was the point I was going after. It's something he can go out and say, all right, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going back to the old mix that was working better. So we'll see where it goes. 3 starts, 16 and a third. Again, totally effective as far as limiting runs. Fewer strikeouts, but low walk. No issues with contact. 4.3 degree average launch. No problem playing Sonny Gray here. Just something I wanted to explore. Mick Abel on the other side has a good start on the board. Last time out was quite good. He struck out 6 over 6 innings. 4-hitter against the Tigers. Kept them off the board. 3 walks. Not a bad performance. The first 2, not nearly as good. 4 innings, 3 and a third. Limited to 3 strikeouts. Also walked 3 in that one. 4 strikeouts, walked 4 in the other one. Give up 5 earned runs and 4 earned runs. It's a little bit all over the place. He had a good spring. He's a reasonable upside player in the long term. 6,300's cheap, 6,700's cheap. The Red Sox not off to a great start, but there are a lot of talented bats that know how to get on base in that lineup. I don't love this spot. They're pulling a 4.25 implied total. I think Mick Abel more of a dart throw for a very cheap price, more a bargain bin type option today than he is really the upside guy that we saw last time out. But the jury's out on that one. I do think he's got that level of talent. You can see that right here. 3 pitches, pretty dramatically above average stuff so far. Stuff plus overall, way above average. So I do think there's a lot of talent here. I just don't know that it's fully packaged yet. I don't know that this is the spot with the Sox pulling a decent total to go after it. If you are going to that Red Sox lineup against, they're pulling a couple guys above the magic number and a few others hovering around it in terms of the home run upside. You get Roman Anthony for a fair price on DraftKings at 51 and cheap at 29 on FanDuel. Slow start for the kid. 1 home run on the board, 1 stolen base at 328 on base and 87 WRC plus. You can see him kind of lurking there in the 347 XWO, but this is a kid who got on nearly at a 400 clip over his 300 some odd plate appearances last year. Absolute star caliber talent up at the top. Tons of barrels and hard hits last year. 12.8% barrel, only 41% hard hit in the small sample this year. He will come roaring very, very soon. Caleb Durbin, not so much. Mix and match piece at the absolute best. He's just cheap filler. Don't love the third base positioning for that bat. If you want him at second base on FanDuel, do so in stacks. But be warned, that is not much of a bat. Jarren Duran at 48.33. Not bad. Home run on the board last night. He hit the home run I was targeting for Willie Abreu last night. Abreu back over the magic number, as is Wilson Contreras in the heart of the lineup. Duran not far behind, though, at 7.62. Slow start. Sub Mendoza, concerning 293 on base. A 318 XWOB is not any good, but it's higher than his 284 actual so far. 74 WRC plus. Part of the slow start, but we know that he's a better player than that. We know we'll go 15, 18 home runs, a bunch of stolen bases, and can contribute to run creation in a positive way. 44 for Wilson at first base. Not bad. 3,200 kind of works on FanDuel. 304, 443, 500 start for him. If you're going to this team, he's one of the core bats. You absolutely want him in your stacks. He's a priority. I just don't love him in the full vacuum of things at first base. He's okay. I like him a lot better when he was a catcher. Abreu, love, 4,900, 3,600, tons of hard hits, tons of barrels out of Willier. Tremendous year last year, off to a great start at 355, 403, 597 this year. 372 weighted on XWOBA under a 439 actual, 179 WRC plus. Guy's just a stick of dynamite, especially against mediocre right-handed pitching. Again, Mick Abel does have very good stuff. Willier's got some swing and miss in his game overall, 24.2% strikeout last year, 28% the year before that. Down at just 20.9% so far this year. The walk rates come down slightly in the tiny, tiny meaningless sample. But something to watch. If Willier limits strikeouts a little bit more effectively, just makes more frequent contact, the level of his contact is already there. So you just get more of it. That's going to shoot up his home run total. That's going to shoot up all of his numbers. Trevor Story remains cheap at 38.28. Tremendous year last year. Slow start this year, but I think the numbers will be there. Hard hits and barrels were abundant last year. Definitely an interesting shortstop, particularly if you're going to the Red Sox. I would consider him a priority bat. Marcelo Mayer, Carlos Narvaez, Sedan Rafaela, more mix and matchy. This Red Sox team is more of a 7-man lineup. Mayer's okay, hasn't really fully landed at the major league level, does have a home run, a stolen base on the board. Interesting 12.1% barrel this year, 9.2 last year, 51.7 does suggest there's a little bit, that's in a small sample, does suggest there's a little bit of a hitter there, but it hasn't fully developed. So 50 okay plate appearances so far, or pretty underwhelming plate appearances so far at 64 WRC plus. At best, a mix and match piece from the left side, though, makes him interesting. Cheap price at second base makes him interesting. I think I'd rather take a shot at a totally unknown Marcelo Mayer than Caleb Durbin, just for the quality of contact that they make. Mayer makes more interesting contact. Narvaez is just a mix and match catcher, and Rafaela, as always, fills counting stats. So far, so good in terms of the production, the 128 WRC plus. We've seen this the last few years. Hot start, good counting stats throughout the year. WRC plus craters around the on-base percentage by the end of the season. So Sonny Gray's right-handed. That might help him. The Twins have scorched some lefties early this season, but sub 4 implied total. Not a ton of appeal today. They looked, I think, a little more interesting in other spots. I won't say yesterday. I almost did, but that's not true. I think we've seen them flash a little bit of double-digit power upside, but nobody doing that, not even Byron Buxton today against Sonny, who's never really had issues with the home run ball. So not really looking to get to Twins. I think they're playable here, but I think I'd rather have Sonny. Byron Buxton's cheap at 4,500, though 2,800, as I said yesterday, the most important number for him so far is the 67 plate appearances. One home run on the board, just a 70 WRC plus. We know the numbers will be there if we get the opportunities. Trevor Larnach, Luke Keeschel, definitely reasonable pieces for the money. 3,100 for Larnach, 41 for Keeschel, under 3,000 for both players on FanDuel. Larnach's got a little bit of lefty pop in that bat with a quality hit tool, the ability to get on base, 144 WRC plus for him so far. Keeschel, not out of the gate strong, but we saw a lot of quality from him in a partial season last year. I expect big things, and only striking out so far this year at a 15.3% clip. Last year was 14%. So putting a lot of balls in play, can draw a walk, just needs to square the ball up a little bit more effectively and be a little bit more efficient, find some success via BABIP. I think we get good production out of him in the 15 to 18 home run range, solid DFS days. Perfectly fine to stack him and include him in builds. Not going out of my way to like one-off Luke Keeschel against Sonny Gray here, though. Josh Bell, pretty differently priced across sites for his hot start. 35 on FanDuel, 3 home runs on the board, 41 on DraftKings. Probably still the more correct price. A lot of good batted ball events so far. The 3 home runs out to a 154 WRC plus, a good 359 xWOBA supporting that outrageous 397 actual so far. I think the production comes down in the long term, but we have seen Josh Bell hit for power in the past. Getting lefty against a righty is the side of the platoon that you want him on. So there's some upside there. If you're going to Twins, I would consider him a priority at either price, but obviously a much more comfortable piece on DraftKings. Ryan Jeffers, 36, 3,000, 2 home runs on the board. Good start for him over 50 plate appearances. 401 xWOBA supporting the upside. I like Ryan Jeffers for some cheap catcher value. He makes good contact. So far this year, 16.1, 51.6, outrageously up, but had a 42.1% hard hit last year. Didn't really strike out. 19.6 last year, just 20% so far this year. Double-digit walk rate for the first time last year. Reasonable option for 3,600. Wallner has tons of upside at 3,400. 3,000 on FanDuel, very fair price. The 34 is cheap for that power upside. I just said before, Sonny Gray has no issues with home runs, has always been effective keeping the ball down, but Wallner can launch. If Sonny makes one mistake, that's a really interesting player to have at a cheap price. 3 home runs on the board and 68 plate appearances to tie for the team lead. Otherwise, unimpressive numbers across those opportunities. Should be a guy in the long term who gets on base via the walk, has a decent on base to support some run creation, but is mostly here to hit for power. We're just looking for the one good batted ball event. Tristan Gray, not a bad start for him. Pair of home runs on the board and 27 plate appearances. More mix and matchy, though, at a cheap price. Brooks Lee, good hit tool. James Outman, cheap if he's hiding down the bottom of the lineup. I realize I didn't confirm these lineups. We got to go way back to 2023. Speaking of support the way back machine, apparently they need it. 567 plate appearances in 2023 for James Outman when he was with the Dodgers. 23 home runs, 16 stolen bases, a 118 WRC plus. Then he only made 156 plate appearances in 24, 148 plate appearances last year, was largely ineffective in those opportunities when he got them, has been mostly hurt, is no longer part of the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, but finds himself lurking at the bottom of this Twins lineup. Let's see if he's in it. Oh, neither of these actually confirmed yet. There is a good opportunity for him to surge at some point this season at a cheap price, or at least provide some interesting DFS days, because he is a talented guy. He is a 2015 type if all goes right, or maybe 15-20 type if all goes right. It's a not uninteresting player if you're going to Twins, if he's in the lineup. But obviously going on the 9 spot, less than ideal. We didn't talk about that with lineup building either. You get fractionally more opportunity in those top few spots than in these bottom few spots, just because of how baseball works with the cyclical batting order. This goes Sonny Gray. Those are very fair prices for Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, Red Sox bats, Twins bats, Mick Abel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, toss any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts in the Discord. Leave comments on the video. It helps on YouTube. Check out the website, rotoscouts.com. Everything at Rotoscouts under $1 a day, including all the baseball projections. You get access to these dashboards as images so you can look through the stats with the pricing, the positioning, all of that, the projections in image form on the site. You get top stacks. You get home run picks. You get the power index. A lot of content. You also get NHL and NBA projections. Those are live for tonight's slates. Got a 9-gamer, I think, on NHL. 9 or 10 game NHL slate. 2 games for basketball, play-in tournament for basketball going on. Thankfully, we're in the playoffs. Oh, such a relief to just be like, these are the guys who are going to play. These are the minutes. It's not guys I've never heard of taking the floor for the Memphis Grizzlies, the Utah Jazz, and so on. Dumbest NBA season in history this year. Tampa Bay Rays, Chicago White Sox. Mentioned the debut of big Noah Schultz, and I mean big. Dude is 6'10", 240. Monster lefty on the mound. We have both of these lineups in. Let me grab them as I talk about Schultz. Kid's nasty. Should strike out a lot of hitters at the major league level. This was a absolute priority, level 1 priority pickup in your fantasy leagues. He's probably already gone, but if he's not in your season-long league and you can pick him up for tonight, do so. Good opportunity to get out of the gate strong here against the Rays. As mentioned, the one thing I would think is if we get 5 good innings out of him, we might not see him go for the 6th. He's made 3 starts in AAA this year. 4 innings in the first one, 5 in the second 2. In his most recent outing, that was against the Cardinals affiliate. 5 innings of 2 hit ball, gave up 1 earned run, 2 runs total, struck out 9 in that game, struck out 5 in each of the first 2 against the Brewers and the Rays affiliates. Spring training, he made 2 starts, just went, or 2 appearances rather, 2 innings and 2 1/3 in relief work, struck out 3, struck out 2, was mostly effective in those. He threw 73 innings over 17 starts across AA and AAA last season. Worked to a 4.68 ERA with a 4.17 xFIP. Had a 23.2% strikeout rate with a 13.8% walk rate. So a little bit of bumps in the growth plan there. Obviously accelerated, just because it's the White Sox and they're kind of bereft of any talent. So bring the kids along as soon as they're eligible, and you've got all the contract concerns out of the way. We'll see a number of other White Sox prospects landing in the next few weeks. Schultz is only 22. He's a former first-round 26th overall pick. Again, tons and tons of upside. The year before across the minor leagues, from A-ball through AA, 29.4% strikeout rate, 6.9% walk rate in his first year as a pro. Kid's got major talent. Oh, excuse me. Those were the AA. The full numbers were 32-1, 6.7. I was looking a line above. So that was just AA. So after he got promoted, that was 61 innings of AA, 27 apiece in A-ball and high A last season. So major talent. First start against the Rays. Again, this is a decent enough target. The 17.3% strikeout rate so far this season, some overperformance in that on a couple of these guys. They're not crazy bad for strikeouts in general. You do have Ryan Velotti sliding in here at a fairly high strikeout rate in small samples. Everybody up top is fairly realistically low strikeout. Maybe you get a few more along the way out of Jonathan Aranda. But you do have a little bit to gain down here as far as the strikeouts go with the Johnny DeLucas, the Nick Forteses, the Taylor Walls of the world. Chandler Simpson, believably very, very low strikeout and elite hit tool in the 6th spot. But not a bad team to debut against. On the other side, Shane O'Mac at 8,109,000. I don't love him at that FanDuel price. Just considering, the lack of depth so far. His first 4 innings in the second one, 4 2/3 in the first one. Struck out 5, walked 4. Inefficient day. Only gave up 1 hit, 2 earned runs, but was out after 4 innings against the Cubs. 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 earned runs on 3 hits, or 3 runs total on 2 hits, over 4 2/3 against the Brewers. Probably more of a shot for efficiency against this, lesser White Sox lineup. Plenty of strikeouts here for him. But I don't love the upside to book the quality start necessarily. I consider these more around his ceiling as well as his median projection. 8,100, a lot less difficult to work with on DraftKings. And again, plenty of upside. 356 implied total for Chicago. If you're going to the Rays against the kid, maybe not crazy. In Major League debut, we saw again through last year's numbers, did underwhelm maybe for his talent level and for his pedigree once he was promoted. So maybe again just runs into it a little bit as he figures things out, given another quick promotion. But tons and tons of talent. So maybe you take a little contrarian stance around Johnny Diaz, one of the best players in the league, one of the most underrated players in the league. 362, 456, 569 to start to his year. 3 home runs on the board. Fairly priced under $5,000 on DraftKings. $3,800 is appropriate on FanDuel. Aranda is fairly cheap. Lefty here against the big kid, I don't totally love. 4,200, 3,500, very differently priced across sites. He's a guy who barrels the ball very consistently. 3 home runs already this year. Only 217, 286 front end of that slash line. Those should both go up pretty dramatically based on who he was last year. Junior Caminero at 5,000, fairly cheap for who he is. 3,100 on FanDuel, definitely affordable. Big right-handed power against the lefty. That's a major potential home run. 14.5 in the home run model against the kid. 2 home runs on the board already this year. 338 xWOB under the 333 actual, 111 WRC plus. No problems with the start, but he has not really been barreling the ball, squaring it up like he typically does. So we've got a lot of room to go up the board for Junior as the year goes on. Velotti's a mix and match. So is Ben Williamson. Not a ton there, but they're very cheap on both sites. Chandler Simpson, we're always interested in. So far, 411, 441, 482. If he's getting on base at anything approaching the elite, 370 plus type level, and right now he's obviously crushing that, the dude's going to steal 70 or more bases this year. It's just a given. 7 stolen bases on the season. He's creating havoc out there. 166 WRC plus. This is what I was talking about before. 305 xWOBA under the 416 actual. Just, he's too fast. He defies the mathematics of baseball. Puts the ball in play and just beats it. Johnny DeLuca, Nick Fortes, Taylor Walls, mix and matchy down the bottom of the lineup. Fortes off to a decent start. Taylor Walls not off to a bad start. They're players we've seen succeed through stretches and in spots in the past, but nothing to get excited about. They're just cheap down the bottom of the lineup against a rookie pitcher. On the White Sox side, Miguel Vargas, 3,500, 3,400. Not inappropriately priced on DraftKings. A little bit pricey on FanDuel. Not a good start for him. 1 home run, 3 stolen bases. I don't know why FanDuel overreacts to some guys, doesn't react at all to other guys. Miguel Vargas, not a good player, not a good start. 3,400. More expensive by $300 than Ronald Acuna. Does that make any sense? Somebody explain it. I would love to hear what the explanation for that is. Chase Meadroth at 3,327. Slow start for him. We know that's an elite hit tool. We'll see what it develops into in terms of his ability to drive the ball. So far, he hasn't shown much of that in the show, but should get on base a lot more, should succeed via BABIP, maybe steal some bases along the way. He has pushed a few barrels up so far this year, 1.6% last year as a rookie, up to 4.8% in the small sample this year. That would be interesting if he continues, even if it's just doubles power. That would make him a different kind of hitter. Munetaka Murakami, very inexpensive on DraftKings for the power upside. 4 home runs on the board already. Otherwise, 157, 323, 392. Kind of a mixed bag of a start, but he's got a lot of experience in pro baseball from NPB days, so he will be fine in the long term, and the primary skill set is already translated. Everson Pereira, Edgar Quero, Colson Montgomery, more than mix and match pieces for each of those guys. Everson does have a little bit of talent. He was another guy who came up in the Yankees system a couple years ago. 2,500, 2,300, washed out before getting to the Yankees, but there is some talent. There is a little bit of ability to hit the ball hard there. I'm kind of interested. 250, 294, 500, 122 WRC plus with a homer on the board. Hitting cleanup at a very cheap price. If you're going White Sox, that works. Not a reason in the world to go to the White Sox, though. Colson Montgomery, lefty, less than ideal here. 4,100, 2,900, yet to get the engine turned over. Does have 3 home runs, hit a bunch of them last year. Needs to pull things together overall. and put the slash line together more effectively this year, but out to a 107 start as far as WRC plus goes, and a few very good batted ball events. So it's all we can really ask from the kid in this spot. He's affordable at shortstop. I probably prefer him at short than third base, but he plays either one. Murray, Hill, and Luis Angel mix and match pieces down the bottom of the lineup. No real appeal into the first two. Luis Angel, maybe a little hit tool, some stolen bases. He's got 4 on the season. Hit tool hasn't come through. On base percentage hasn't come through. This is a very short lineup. You want to prioritize, take or leave either of these guys. Prioritize Murakami, maybe Everson, and Colson Montgomery, and just hunt for some power upside there. And then these guys are your correlated scoring options. Everybody else in this lineup kind of rough. I guess I got to go McClanahan, even though I don't love that FanDuel price. It's probably McClanahan, Schultz, Rays, White Sox. I just don't love the potential depth or limitation thereof. Jays and Brewers. Jays lineup is in, Brewers is not. Twins lineup just dropped. I'm actually kind of curious. Buxton, Larnach, Keishel, Bell, Wallner, Caratini, Clemens, Brooks Lee, and Tristan Gray for the Twins. We didn't talk about Cody Clemens. A lot of power upside for Cody. He made a ton of good contact last year, hit a solid handful of home runs. Lee and Gray we talked about, I think, in that lineup. Caratini's also got upside for premium contact for a cheap guy with catcher eligibility on DraftKings. So just something to be aware of there. Cody Clemens has second base eligibility. That is an upside bat for power at second base. But again, Sonny Gray doesn't really have an issue with the home run ball. So I think we lean pitching here. That's where Vegas is taking us anyway. 3.40 implied for the Blue Jays and their good lineup. 3.68 for the Brewers and their very productive run scoring lineup. It's just about Kevin Gausman, Jacob Misiorowski squaring off. 2 primo pitchers, tons of strikeout. Mentioned both guys have a 10 strikeout game and an 11 strikeout game in their 3 starts this year, with one kind of okay start in the middle. I think Miz was 6 strikeouts. Gausman was 7 in their off games. So tons and tons of upside. It amounts to a absurd 40.6% strikeout rate for Gausman against a 3.1% walk, 41.8% for the kid. But his comes against a 13.4% walk. A little bit more of an issue with control command for the young starter versus the much more experienced Kevin Gausman. Gausman should lose a few more along the way to walks, though, than just 3.1%. Certainly won't finish the year at a 37.5% K minus BB. But very good starter. 9,500, 9,600 is relatively fair as far as the pricing goes. I just fear this Brewers lineup in terms of their ability to scratch out even just 4 or 5 runs and ruin a starter's day. Doesn't have to be a break him kind of a day, just bend him. And I think on a slate like this with a ton of pitching depth at good, not great pricing, I don't know that that works so strongly for Kevin Gausman. Major ceiling, not a ton of what I'd say basement, but like the lower floor, the foyer is large here. I think we get a mediocre fantasy start, or I shouldn't say mediocre because that implies he was somewhat bad. I think we get a middling fantasy score for where this day settles in, where the scoreboard ends up settling in, rather than like the top score that you need at the pricing. And I think he gets a little bit popular for the spot. He's been good. But again, major ceiling. Don't get me wrong. There are some strikeouts, not major upside for strikeouts through the Brewers lineup, but there's some. Going the other way, I could see more upside in the Blue Jays, despite that low total, despite losing George Springer. They're kind of interesting. It's a low strikeout bunch overall. A lot of talent. Misiorowski's got some issues putting too many guys on base, creating some opportunities against. And the Blue Jays are the kind of team that can succeed via balls in play. I don't completely hate them in the same way that I don't completely hate the Brewers, and I can see the downside for Miz a little bit, the same way I can see it for Gausman. At his 94 on FanDuel, I'm not completely in love with it, the same way I'm not with Kevin Gausman. 9,000 on DraftKings, it's a little bit more workable on the two starter site for both guys. But again, both these guys rank out and project among the top few starters of the day. Gausman wins out between the two, but there's not a lot of daylight projections-wise, and they're among the top 5-6 starters of the day. If we're going to the Blue Jays, Ernie Clement getting things started in the leadoff role. Flex him around the board on FanDuel. 3,000 at second base works for me on DraftKings. That's where he would land more often than not if I'm building with him anyway. Good start with the hit tool, 311, 323, 393. Craney runs a little bit, 104 WRC plus. Not a guy who's going to run away with fantasy scoring, but a decent enough option based on just putting the ball in play. Very limited strikeout, limited walk rates over the last few seasons. So you just get tons and tons of lightly struck balls in play. Yet to barrel a ball this season, 2.4% last year. So don't look for the home run ball out of Ernie, but getting out 2 or 3 times ahead of the guys who do hit homers like Dalton Varsho, like Vladdy Guerrero, like Jesus Sanchez going down this lineup. That makes Clement interesting to go back to the correlated scoring conversation. Varsho's just interesting for premium contact when he's making it. 15.9% barrel last year. So far this year, just 6.7, but he does have a pair of home runs. Decent enough slash line, 116 WRC plus, plays great defense. If he could do this regularly, he'd be a more interesting player given the elite defense. I would trade off some of his power that we saw last year for just more consistency, and he would be a more complete player. For fantasy, I'll take the power upside, 8.98 in the home run model, lefty bat hitting second. Vladdy is Vladdy, superstar talent. You want him in most of your Blue Jays builds. 10.11, the only guy in this game over the magic number for home run upside. Limited for power output last year, but everything else was intact and made great contact. Great contact so far this year. 1 home run on the board. Excellent slash line, 155 WRC plus for the kid. We've talked about Jesus Sanchez a bunch so far this season. 49 decent plate appearances, holding down an okay slash line, creating runs, 127 WRC plus, an intriguing 375 xWOBA to support what I've been saying about his upside. Has always made very, very good contact in the show. Look, 3 years running, barrel and hard hit rate right there where this is flashing back and forth for you. All right. So far this year, 8.8%, 47.1% hard hit rate. Fine. A little bit below expectations, and he's been good with 2 home runs. That is an underappreciated player at 3,400, 2,900, hitting cleanup between Vladdy Guerrero and the return of Eloy Jimenez. Deadman price. He was back on Sunday. This is who they called up to replace George Springer. Well, Springer's absent, although Addison Barger's probably not too far away on the IL, so we'll see what happens then. For today, for Sunday, Eloy Jimenez came out. He went 2 for 4, cut a pair of singles. This is a guy who was really never bad. He had 1 mediocre season, 1 superstar caliber season when he first arrived, and then a couple decent seasons where he mashed baseballs in terms of his barrel rate, his hard hit rate. But he was just absent from our lives, from injury, for years. He's still only 29. I think he's a super interesting player at this price. 2023, 489 plate appearances, 18 home runs, fine. Struck out just 19% of the time. 272, 317, 441. Adequate, not great slash line. 325 weighted on base, but a 314 xWOBA underneath it. Disappointing, but a 106 WRC plus. Was good that year, not great. Year before, only made 327 plate appearances, but they were pretty elite. 16 home runs in less than half a season. 205 ISO. 295, 358, 500 slash line, 370 xWOBA, 370 actual, 143 WRC plus. That was just in 2022. I know that's a few years ago now, but I mean, it's not that far removed. He's just, again, didn't play in the show last year. Limited to 349 very bad plate appearances in 2024. That's when he fell apart. But he's just working his way back. I am intrigued by the presence of Eloy Jimenez in this lineup. It's a career 269, 319, 462 bat, 112 WRC plus, 335 xWOBA, 95 home runs in 2,100 plate appearances, but 31 home runs in his only 1 complete season. For the Deadman price, call me interested. Nathan Lukes, the ability to get to first base, though he has not shown it at all so far this year. Kaz Okamoto, another NPB player with a lot of upside. This is a guy with a ton of experience under his belt. 2 home runs on the board already. 204, 283, 333 is very disappointing. 284 WOBA, 295 xWOBA. We've seen NPB players take a minute to get situated in the show before and flash power, but not much else. Might end up being the case with Okamoto. He's got a few barrels already, 9.1% barrel in a handful of batted ball events. Very affordable, though, at third base if you're going to this Blue Jays team. And again, I think they could maybe upset the apple cart here against Mizurowski, who people probably go to a little bit. Andres Jimenez, mix and matchy, Brandon Valenzuela, same thing. On the Brewers side, 368 total for them. Bryce Turang fully priced at 56, 4,000. Very good bat, though. The barrels are still here this year. We talked many times already about the tripling of his barrel rate last year in the outburst for power. So far, that's gone up again. Very small sample, but he's mashing and has been. 3 home runs, 5 stolen bases on the board, a 441 on base. Just fantastic way to get things started at second base. You're just going up against a really tough pitcher in Kevin Gausman. This team, by the way, the Brewers lost Christian Yelich. He went on the IL, so problematic there. A little bit of a downgrade for their overall quality. But this is a lineup full of guys who just, you can kind of click in the next guy because they focus on getting to first base and then making things happen. So they just keep on rolling here. William Contreras is very good. Garrett Mitchell, Jake Bauers, good options through the middle. Mitchell's off to a great start at 278, 409, 444, kind of the model of what they do. 3 stolen bases, a 141 WRC plus. Has hit the ball very, very hard to get things started. Still cheap in the outfield on DK, a lot less so at 3,500 on FanDuel, but extremely playable if you're going to this team. Jake Bauers, we've talked about a bunch already for his consistent barrel rates and hard hit rates over the last few years. Doing Jake Bauers things to get us started this year, 4,000, fairly priced. 4 home runs already on the board. Slashing just 239, 300, 522. He's not going to kill it in those departments, but he should draw more walks as the season continues and push that on base. Just 8% walks so far. That does come with an improvement in the small sample of his strikeout rate, but I think we get more walks better on base and some additional run creation out of an already talented and productive player. Sal Frelick just been mix and matchy, just another outfielder for talent so far this year. For production so far this year, but more talent than that, more ability to get on first base than he's shown, and does make things happen as far as run creation and stolen bases from there. Brendan Lockridge, Luis Renifo, Joey Ortiz, and David Hamilton, mostly mix and matchy down through the bottom of this lineup. This is not a great final 4. They're all affordable though. They play multiple positions on FanDuel, less so on DraftKings. You can click one of those guys into any given lineup. What you don't want to be doing too much of is stacking up 2, 3, 4 of those guys in the same lineup with only one of the primo guys. If you have 3 of them, and to go back to that point I was making before about the bottom of lineups, let's say you end up with a 3-man of, I'll throw Frelick into that mix, even though he belongs more at the top. Sal Frelick, Luis Renifo, and Joey Ortiz. That's fine. I'm not saying don't play that. In fact, there's upside to playing that because they're all very cheap. That will buy you 5 upside bats and a couple good pitchers. So that's okay. And those players all have talent. They all have the ability to create runs. And the way baseball works, any given slate, those guys can all explode for a great game. They're all directly correlated with one another from down there. So I'm not saying don't play them. And they become more playable when we're talking about the secondary stack, the value play, the filler pieces, the 3-man, the 2-man, so on and so forth. Kevin Gausman, Miz, Blue Jays, despite the lower total, Brewers. I do think it's a loosely, slightly 4 corners game. Just the idea of, as we've talked about in previous slates, the idea of getting to good teams when you're chasing contrarian lineups against good pitching is always in play for me. And I think a lot of both of these lineups in terms of their run creation ability. So loose 4 corners ability in a contrarian sense for the 2 lineups coming back the other way. This is turning into a very long show. Quiet day in chat. There's a bunch of you out there. Say hi, hit the like button, feed the algorithm, comment on the show, like, subscribe, so on and so forth. Check out rotoscouts.com. Also follow the @Rotoscouts Twitter handle. It's mostly just links to the articles that go up on the site. Joey Cantillo going for the Guardians, as mentioned. I think he's kind of interesting. Major issue here is the weather. This has a 14, 15 mile an hour wind blowing out toward left field on a 85-degree evening in St. Louis. Problematic as far as that total goes, but Joey Cantillo is good. Joey Cantillo is good enough to beat that. And he's good enough to beat this team and find some strikeouts against these young hitters. I do not dislike this spot for Joey Cantillo, and I like him at price. 7,300, 7,700. Projects out just fine. Coming into town with a 33% strikeout rate over his 14 2/3. That'll probably come down over time. Hopefully the walk rate does at 11.7%. Last year, 26.9% more realistic strikeout rate. Did have an inflated 10.5% walk rate in 13 starts, 95 1/3 innings. Stuff Plus didn't rate out all that well last year. Rates out still below average this year, but a little bit of an uptick. But he does find the strikeout. He does find the swinging strike. 12.1% swinging strike rate last year. Came away with a 31.5 CSW. This year so far, 11.5% swinging, 30.7 CSW, 3.21 ERA against the 3.66 xFIP, 3.83 Sierra last year. Same thing this year, 2.45 ERA against the 3.18, 3.11. Joey Cantillo is just decent. He's not an ace. Below average stuff. Not even a good locator. He's below average across everything. but he makes it work for whatever reason. And he makes it work consistently. No issues going to him against these cards. In fact, I think there's cheapo upside. I do think maybe despite the total, despite the weather concerns, maybe some calls for offense here, I think at that price, maybe he gets a little bit popular, at least on DraftKings at 73 as an SP2. I don't think it's a secret that Joey Cantillo is good. 9 strikeouts last time out, gave up an earned run on 3 hits over 5 2/3 to KC. You could strike out 9 rows. You could strike out, well, like 25 Cardinals, but he's not going to do that. Let's say 8. No, that's lower. Let's say 12. He's not going to do that either. But a 9 strikeout day against the Royals is definitely upside for me. On the other side of this one, Michael McGreevy, a lot less so. 16.1% Ks over his 16 2/3 this year. Does come with a low walk rate. Last year it was 14.5% strikeouts against a 5% walk rate. So he doesn't give away opportunities, but he's not particularly good. He doesn't finish hitters off. He doesn't induce swinging strikes. 7.8% rate last year, 5.3 this year. So far, 2.16 ERA against a 4.03 xFIP, fine. 4.42 ERA, 4.32 xFIP, 4.57 Sierra. This might have been who I was thinking of. For whoever that was earlier. So McGreevy just average at the absolute ceiling without strikeout upside. Not a lot of appeal against the Guardians lineup that, at least at the top, is effective in limiting strikeouts. They're okay. They do have a breakout player in Chase DeLauder hitting second today. Jose Ramirez is a superstar. Kyle Manzardo's been underperforming so far this season, but does have a ton of upside, at least in the power department, and he's gotten really cheap for the underperformance. Everybody else in this lineup, more mix and matchy outside of the top 4. But playable through the Anel Martinez's, maybe some Bo Naylor for cheap prices. So I think you can play this total a little bit more against McGreevy than I'm really looking to play this total against Joey Cantillo. I would play some shares of Cantillo going this way. Stephen Kwan in the leadoff role for the Guardians would be a part of that equation if you're looking to chase some correlation there. But if I want a 3-man it, I'm probably fine just going to DeLauder, Ramirez, and Manzardo. Kwan is your most likely correlated scoring piece, but your least likely individual upside player in that group. Succeeds via average, getting on base, 343 on base so far this year, supporting his 102 WRC plus, just a 318 WOBA, 308 xWOBA under the surface. DeLauder's got 5 home runs on the board already, 300, 379, 680. I would say even more importantly, the slash line has been strong. Low strikeout at 17.2%, 12.1% walk in his first 58 plate appearances in the show, 451 WOBA, 424 xWOBA. Nothing not to like about the kid so far. I doubt he stays at this level, but maybe he is just secretly the best player in baseball. Ramirez, home runs, stolen bases. You get tons and tons of them over the years. So far this year, 200, 297, 354. Low-end start, but he'll be fine. No issues with going to him. Underpriced, I would say, at 3,400 on FanDuel. Reactionary. Again, that's the same price as whoever, because it was 31 for Ronnie Acuna, 34 for whoever the cheapo bad player was that I was overreacting to before, and now 34 for Jose Ramirez. They're all over the place. Manzardo, 11.1% barrel is at least good. That's in line with last year. The hard hits are a little bit down. The production is down dramatically overall in 49 plate appearances that we don't want to be too reactionary with. 27 home runs on the board last year in an okay season in terms of the slash line, the overall run creation. It's a good bat, though. If we're stacking this team up for 3,100 at first, that totally works. 2,400, even more to the point on FanDuel, is very cheap. 7.23 in the home run model. Not bad, and on a day with the wind blowing out, could help. George Valera, 31, 25, mix and matchy. Anel Martinez kind of surged recently, 319, 385, 511 with 2 homers, 4 stolen bases. If we're looking at him to get on base, provide some correlated scoring, maybe steal a bag, score some runs, perfectly fine. I do not think that the hard hits and the barrels stay where they are right now. I don't think we get a lot of home run production. I've been wrong before, but this is not his game really. But maybe it's a little bit of a breakout. He's very affordable still if you want to find out on DraftKings. Less so, but at least he has second base eligibility on FanDuel. Schneemann, mix and matchy. Bo Naylor, lots of power, premium contact upside, but very limited. A lot of strikeout in Bo's game, a lot of zeros from him in terms of DFS. Every now and then you chase the one good bat at ball event. Cheap at catcher where you need the position at 2,600. Brian Rocho here for defense. On the Cardinals side, Victor Scott at the bottom of their lineup to do things in a different order. 2 stolen bases on the board, just a 267 on base. If he could ever get on base, he'd be a more effective player, but he doesn't, so he's not. Mix and matchy in the outfield. Joel Pozo, Jose Finnerman, Mason Wynn, Ramon Urias, all mix and match type talents. Urias makes decent contact every now and again, but missed cast as the 5 hitter in this lineup. He's just cheap from the right side against a lefty. You do want him when he's facing a lefty for the little bit of right-handed pop that he provides, but not a good bat, not somebody at all reliable in that 5 spot. So that's part of the weakness of this team. You really want to focus on those first 4 spots in the lineup, and everybody who goes to the Cardinals is going to play those exact same guys. So it gets difficult even if you choose to stack this team at that 4.45 total against a good pitcher. Don't love it. JJ Weatherholt, lefty, 4,300, off to a slow start, but a premium prospect. He's 3,200. Would be playable on either site, but maybe more of a reason to limit this to like a 3-man with the 3 obvious guys. Ivan Herrera, one of their best players at 35.29. Slow start for him, but had a good year last year. 19 home runs, solid slash line at 284, 373, 464. The kid's good. Phil's catcher for a fair price as well. Burleson at 43.34. Upside, 2 home runs on the board, getting on base consistently so far this year at 380, creates some runs. One of their better players, but very average, just another outfielder type talent. And then Jordan Walker, a lot more than that, presumably. Out of the gate like crazy this year, on absolute fire with 8 home runs, 333, 394, 767, 219 WRC plus. Has been 119% better since coming into the season as our biggest sleeper play of the year, I would say. Love that kid. Priced up at 3,700 on FanDuel. DraftKings being a lot more conservative at just 4,000. That's your go-to bet. A lot of what we're seeing, in my opinion, is very real. A lot of other people in the industry are telling you otherwise. I would not be selling high on Jordan Walker. I'd be just keeping him, and I am. Joey Cantillo. Big gap. Guardians bats. Gap. Cardinals bats. Big gap. Michael McGreevy. Told you the Rockies were interesting for power. Rocks, Astros. We have both of these lineups in. This is the danger when I start a show many hours before lock and I know I've got time. I'm just going to meander our way through these slates. I can't be starting this early, and it's just going to lead to like 4-hour shows. That's the one good thing about when I was starting them under the gun. I have to get off. I have to speak fast and end them. I can't just like luxuriously take our way through this stuff. Rockies lineup's interesting. 371 implied total's not great, but look how cheap everybody is. A couple good notches in here for home run upside. I won't say they're good players, but there's a couple interesting players in this lineup, and I think they will be throughout the seasons based on what they've done in a couple seasons past. And they're just going to be consistently playable for the affordability and for the just general upside of one good batted ball event from one of these guys. They're going up against Colton Gordon, who has not pitched in the show this year. Gordon, where the hell are you? There it is. 3 starts in AAA this season. 5 1/3, pretty effective in his most recent outing. That was against Seattle's affiliate. He struck out 5, no earned runs, gave up 1 unearned run, walked 2. 2 earned runs on 4 hits over 5 to Miami's affiliate. Struck out 4 in that game, walked 2, struck out 4, walked nobody. 1 run on 3 hits over 5 to Texas's AAA affiliate in his first start of the year. Those are all well and good at the AAA level so far this year. Last year in the show, 14 starts, 81 innings, 19% strikeout, 5% walk. That's not great, but it is at least a low walk rate, but just a 14% K-minus BB, not good. 5.67 ERA, problematic. 4.44 xFIP, problem. 4.34 Sierra, not great. 1.49 whip, big problem. Not in line with that low-end walk rate. That means you're probably giving up a lot of good contact, and he was. 12% barrel on a 19.4 degree average launch will do it. 40.1% hard hit. Exit velo wasn't too problematic at 89 miles an hour, but give up a 5.79% home run rate, which is unsustainably bad last year in a not unfair sample. That's over 14 starts. It's not a full sample, but it's a half season. He just wasn't good, and that's pushing some of this quality toward the Rockies. What it might amount to is 1 3-run home run, and thank you very much. That's all the scoring the Rockies do because they're not great at sequencing. They're not great at getting to first base. But there is that home run upside. There is that flash in the pan type upside today. Astros a lot more visible going up against Michael Lorenzen. 4.92 implied total, second highest on the entire slate. As weak as their win-loss record has been, the Astros offense has not been the problem. They've been scoring 5 runs a game. They have a lot of guys creating runs in that lineup. Just look at the WRC plus. That guy's pretty dramatically above average. You can't have that and be a bad team. It's a 142 average 9-man WRC plus, including the 61 from Bryce Matthews. So you can absolutely stack this team against Michael Lorenzen. And in fact, I advise you do. 13.41 for Jordan Alvarez in the 2 spot, leading the way in the home run model. He's surrounded by talent. He's an absolute monster on his own. That's your best one-off probably of the entire slate against this pitcher. Michael Lorenzen, not completely awful, but also not good. Last year, 141 2/3, struck out 21%, 4.64 ERA, 4.23 xFIP, 4.16 SIERA, 1.33 WHIP. There's nothing special here. 4.13% home run rate, just medium strength contact, substandard stuff. Same numbers the year before with more walks. Just not a good pitcher. Total target on this slate. Don't roster him at 55. Don't roster him at 63. With Tyler Freeman in the leadoff spot at 35, 2,700 with second base eligibility on FanDuel, we get started with a hit tool base player on the Rockies lineup. Not a bad option to kick things off, though. Should hit for average, should get on base. Last year, over 428 opportunities, 281, 354, 361 slash line. Creator runs at just a 91 WRC plus, though. 325 xWOBA, a little bit above average, 319 actual. Underperformed the overall, but not a guy who hits the ball particularly hard. Needs help from his friends, but he limits strikeouts, puts the ball in play, becomes interesting at those prices for DFS purposes. Brenton Doyle in the 2 spot. Absolutely love that at 3,100, 2,400. You can see 12.60 against this pitcher in the home run model today. Doyle, not a great start. 174, 255, 261, just a 36 WRC plus after a disappointing year last year. But a guy who does have home run hitting talent, does have the upside for stolen bases if he happens to be at first base instead of circling them. 10.8% barrel, 44.6% hard hit last year, consistent with the year before in terms of the premium contact. Just not great for strikeout, not great for walks. Again, on base is not his game, but a really interesting, cheap bat with that home run mark in the 2 spot. Hunter Goodman in the 3 spot, 4,400 at catcher, 2,800 across 2 positions on FanDuel, really. 2 home runs on the board this year, hit a bunch last year. 31 homers last year to lead this team, 278, 323, 520 to go with that. Had a 359 WOBA, but a 324 expected mark. That's your downside from last year's performance with Hunter Goodman. I think that's reflected somewhat in the low slash line that he's got to start this season. But the premium contact that he made was real. The home runs that he hit were probably pretty real. So there's major upside for power. He's pulling a 17.52 in the home run model today, and that is your home run pick of the day, Hunter Goodman. Willie Castro, mix and matchy with a little bit more upside because he's hitting cleanup in this lineup. Second base is where you'd want him anyway on DraftKings. 4 position eligible on FanDuel. More hit to a focus, but 12 home run type power. Some run creation abilities, even though he's off to a slow start this year. TJ Rumfield, a bat from the left side with a little bit of oomph in it. 9.8% barrel rate so far. Off to a good start. A pair of home runs over 58 plate appearances. Definitely a little upside play for 3,000 at first base when you're filling out from this lineup. Ezekiel Tovar, I almost made the home run pick of the day. Takes a dip in the lineup, but he's off to a good start. 258, 281, 419. Inconsistent as far as the on base goes because he doesn't really draw walks. He's got too much swing and miss in his game. But when I say off to a good start, I'm talking about the premium contact numbers. I'm talking about he's got 1 home run. He's got a stolen base on the board. 341 xWOBA under that 311 actual. 81 WRC plus, obviously underwhelming. That is a good bat with some good upside when he's not swinging and missing. Jordan Beck at 28-25 has been pretty empty to start this season. Does have the ability to hit the ball hard, 9.5% barrel last year, but pretty empty stat line overall. Mix and matchy, just another outfielder at best right now. Kyle Karros, Jake McCarthy, also just mix and match pieces from the bottom. Few stolen bases for each of those players. Nobody performing all that well. That's where the Rockies lineup gets a little bit sticky as a stack. Those top 5, top 6, really, probably the more desirable options. These bottom 3 are pretty low end right now. On the Astros side, future Hall of Famer Jose Altuve, 311, 432, 492, a 166 WRC plus, just doing Jose Altuve things. Jordan Alvarez, again, superstar, absolute masher. 6 home runs on the board, one of your home run leaders, 321, 487, 714. Nobody better than Jordan Alvarez, very few. Isaac Paredes in his home park, definitely looking to dunk that ball into the left field corner for a home run. Hasn't hit one yet this season, but I love the upside on any given slate when they're playing at home or in friendly parks for his hit profile. He's just a dead pull hitter down that left field line. So look for that. Otherwise, decent enough doubles hitter. He's a productive bat, 108 WRC plus, but we like him best when he's hitting for a little bit of unexpected power. Carlos Correa, 4,600, 3,600 across sites, 291, 361, 400 start, 118 WRC plus. Good start for a good player. Christian Walker bouncing back this year so far with 3 home runs. Good slash line to start things out. Most important thing, what we've talked about already, 16.2% strikeout. If he can maintain those gains and get back to who he used to be in terms of the strikeout profile, expect a season-long great year from Christian Walker. Cam Smith is off to a really good start. He's got 3 home runs and 3 steals on the board. Good slash line supported by a 368 on base. He's been really interesting to start the year. 4,100, 3,100, not bad pricing either. Joey Perfito, fairly affordable for an upside bat with a little bit of pop. He's off to a good start at 295, 373, 386, and getting consistent opportunities in this lineup. Then Bryce Matthews, Christian Vasquez down the bottom of the lineup are mix and matchy. Astros bats, Rockies bats, would not play either of these pitchers. Rangers and the Mariners, Rangers and the Athletics, rather. Neither of these lineups is in. Mackenzie Gore, 86, 10-5. Much more problematic price-wise on FanDuel. Very good pitcher. Projects as one of our top options of the day. Difficult to reach at that price in this ballpark, though. 415 implied total on the Athletics side. I like him a lot better at 86. I'm not saying he can't succeed here. He's been tremendous over his first few. You can see 39.7% strikeout rate over 16 1/3. That's not who he is in the long term. But last year he was successful. 27.2% strikeout against a 9.4% walk, 4.17 ERA, but a 3.78 xFIP, 3.80 Sierra. So a little bit more talent even lurking under the surface than we saw. I just don't love facing this lineup in this park with all their power and the minor league fences and just all the support for offense that this provides. That said, this time of the year last year, it wasn't quite breaking out to the same degree as it did throughout the entire season. Maybe a little bit of support for upside there, but Mackenzie Gore on talent on DraftKings at 86, perfectly fine. Maybe the price on FanDuel renders him a little bit under-owned, the overabundance of other options. Maybe that helps with the ownership on FanDuel and you get through on that. Jeffrey Springs, I don't really want. 8,000, 7,800. He's priced fine. Couple good starts already. 18 1/3 over his 3 starts. 7 innings in his last one, struck out 6, walked 2, 1 hitter against the Yankees. He was rolling in that one. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts and a walk, 1 earned run on 2 hits against the Astros. So he's given up 3 hits in his last 13 innings. That Astros game was in this ballpark. He was very good in that one. Again, 7 strikeouts, just the 1 earned run, 2 hits. But he struggled in this ballpark last year. And it was mostly the surface numbers. Last season, 19.5% strikeouts, 7.1% walk rate at home, 19.2, 8.1 on the road. Those were pretty matched up. 4.56 xFIP against a 4.73 xFIP, 4.56 on the road, 4.73 at home. On the surface, had a 3.45 ERA on the road. Again, against an ugly xFIP. But the results, just the surface level stuff, a lot better on the road. 4.81 ERA at home matches basically the pitcher that we see in the xFIP, the pitcher that we think he actually is. He allowed 17 home runs to 353 hitters in this park and only 11 to 360 hitters on the road. 327 weighted on base in home starts, 292 weighted on base in road starts. So just different last year. Difficult to say that it's definitely going to work against him. He projects out playably, but with a lot of visible downside against a respectable enough Rangers lineup that's coming in at nearly a 4.5 implied total. If nothing else, it just feels like a stay away spot. If you're not running to stack the Rangers against, it doesn't mean I want to play Jeffrey Springs. There are good reasons to stack the Rangers. 2 guys above the magic number. They're the believable 2 for home run upside. Corey Seager and Jake Berger in the heart of the lineup. They both got 4 home runs on the board already this season. Above average WRC plus marks. Both guys hovering in just the 320s via xWOBA. But a lot of talent there and plenty of home run upside. Both guys under 5,000 or 4,839 on DraftKings. 3,629. A little bit different for Corey Seager's price on FanDuel. But I'm fine with paying that price for a superstar talent at shortstop. What I don't love is Brandon Nimmo at the same price as Corey Seager from the top of the lineup on FanDuel and only 100 cheaper on DraftKings. But we've talked about Nimmo. The on base is back so far this year at 403. It's only over 72 meaningless plate appearances, but it's a nice way to get things started for a player who used to produce at that level. The lefty pop has been present throughout. He's got 3 home runs on the board, but he's just killing it to start. 172 WRC plus. Not a bad option if you're rostering Rangers here. Lefty for Nimmo, I don't think it's going to be a major issue. Pretty sure he's... Refresh my memory on Nimmo's splits here. Yeah, career 265, 351, 410 with a 116 WRC plus lefty. So no issues with the same-handed pitching for Brandon Nimmo. Seager, same deal. No issues with, especially with this lefty on the mound, and all the power will be there. 17.1% barrel rate so far for Seager, 13.6 for Jake Berger. McCutchen, not far behind. Mediocre is maybe his 261, 292, 478 would suggest that he's been, and just a 252 xWOBA under the 339 actual. He has made a couple good pieces of contact, handful of batted ball events, 15.4% barrel, 46.2% hard hit. The 41.7% strikeouts in 24 plate appearances is problematic, but that's not who he is really. 25 strikeouts, I believe, but he should walk a lot more, get on base more consistently. Maybe he's interesting when he pops into the lineup from time to time. Danny Jansen's got a little pop as a cheap catcher. Kyle Higashioka's probably got a little bit more as a cheaper catcher. 1 home run on the board in 24 plate appearances for Higgy. He's one of our favorite secrets around the league. 11 home runs last year in just a return to normal form. 2 years ago, had an outlier year with 17 home runs in 263 chances. Typically, in the 2 seasons prior to that, he was exactly 10 on a bunch of barrels in 260 chances. And again, went back to 11 in 327 last year. So I think we expect 10 to 12 home runs from Higgy. And if we get more, great. But he's already doing Kyle Higashioka things in terms of the barrel rate, the hard hits. He's all about those barrels. So cheap catcher whenever you can get to him, and especially against the lefty and especially in a hitter-friendly park. Love the upside for Higgy. He will be under-owned today. Josh Young and Ezekiel Duran, more mix and matchy type pieces. Duran has multi-position for a cheap price. They're just spot fillers at the bottom of the lineup, though. Jacob Wilson, bad start for a kid with an utterly elite hit tool, the ability to really limit strikeouts, limit walk, put a ton of balls in play. Hasn't found a lot of success with that so far, but the success will come. Right now, he's just very cheap as a correlated scoring piece ahead of the home run hitters. You get Kurtz, you get Shea Langoliers, Max A. Muncy, a couple spots further behind that, and Tyler Soderstrom off to mixed starts. Muncy's been good with 2 unexpected home runs and a strong slash line. Soderstrom has 2 home runs, but a disappointing total for him and a low-end slash line. I like those positions to reverse, and Soderstrom's the better player in the long term, but both of those guys super playable from the middle of this lineup. I don't love Andy Ibanez stuck in the middle in this projected version, 2,900, 2,200. He's very, very cheap. Righty bat to throw at the lefty pitcher, but that's a mediocre hitter who's just in there for platoon reasons. Zach Geloff a few spots later, maybe more interesting as a cheap option. A little bit of right-handed pop, 12.5% barrel, 47.9% hard hit in a mostly lost partial season last year. Does have power. Maybe an interesting guy to throw at a left-handed pitcher, but again, we're not really fishing too much with this lineup, I don't think. Geloff at dead min price, though, on FanDuel. 3,200 on DraftKings, a little different story. Austin Wins, mix and matchy. Denzel Clark here for defense. Mackenzie Gore on DraftKings, Rangers bats. Mackenzie Gore on FanDuel, Athletics bats. Don't love Jeffrey Springs, but if you're going to play him, he's all right, and you'd probably rather do it on DraftKings than FanDuel. 2 to go. Weatherholt costs more than Acuna. Yeah, Vargas, that's who it was. Stupid. So dumb. I do not understand that at all. Literally one of the best players in baseball. One of the best players of his generation. Less expensive than Miguel Vargas. Same price as Mauricio Dubon. Take advantage. Braves are one of the best stacks of the day. Take advantage. Makes things work. Brendan Donovan, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor. Speaking of things that aren't quite working right. Donovan off to a decent start. 311, 429, 578. Doing his thing. 191 WRC plus. The 3 guys behind him. 57, 76, 30 WRC plus for the 3 stars of this team. Fortunately, Randy Arozarena picking up the slack at 140 WRC plus. Luke Raley at 164. Crawford in a small sample can zone. Those guys have been successful for this team. Mariners are a team with a lot of talent, 1 through 9. You can play a lot of the bottom of this lineup. A couple guys down there like Rayleigh, like Dominic Canzone, who hit the ball consistently very, very hard. Good double-digit barrel rates 3 years running for each of those players. Mixed sample sizes for those guys, but when they're in the lineup on the left side, they do have upside against any righty. That said, Michael King, not a great target. So far this year, a lot of barrels. Hasn't resulted in a bunch of home runs. Looks like just probably one. Last year, fair amount of barrels as well in his 73 and a third over 15 starts. Year before that, more limited in terms of the barrel rate, was very good at limiting power and great at inducing weak and medium contact. He was only decent at that last year, but these numbers conservatively below our emergency thresholds, exit velo most notably, just 87.8 miles an hour of exit velo. So despite some circumstantial home runs and some barrels, so some fly balls just got up and out against him, wasn't exactly allowing players to just blast the ball last year. So at least an interesting enough starter. Some of that is reflected here. You do have Cal Raleigh above the magic number still. He's only got 2 on the board. Sub Mendoza, 243 on base start for Cal as well. Really needs to get things going, but I think he will. Julio always takes a minute to get the engine turned over, 212, 297, 288. The numbers will be there in the long run, but right now, frustrating player to go to. Only priced at $3,000, cheaper than Ronald Acuna right now. $4,500 on DraftKings is very, very cheap and fair. $3,300 is cheap for Naylor, 24. He's got 2 home runs on the board. I think he hit them both yesterday, day before. Randy Arozarena has been good, as mentioned. 43 is cheap for him. 34 is fair. This is a 2020 and above type talent. Last year, 27 homers, 31 stolen bases. Premium option for DFS scoring. As mentioned, Rayleigh and Canzone hit the ball hard. Crawford, when he's going right, gets on base at an elite clip. Over 39 plate appearances so far, 436 on base. That's definitely an interesting correlated scoring piece. And then Cole Young mix and match you from the bottom. King is entirely playable. 22% strikeout rate so far. Too many walks in the small sample, but inducing an 11.2% swinging strike rate is good. 3.24 ERA against a 4.37 xFIP. I would expect the run scoring numbers to come down somewhat. Last year, 3.44 ERA, 4.20 xFIP, but a 3.99 Sierra. Decent for strikeout, but a few too many walks and again, too much premium contact. But this is a pitcher I like at these prices, at least at the DraftKings at 79. 87 on FanDuel is a little bit more problematic. And it's a Mariners lineup that I respect, even though they're struggling. King, 5 2/3 in the second start, full 6 innings in the third start. Gave us a quality start in that one. 2 earned runs, 4 hits. Only struck out 4 and walked 3. That was against the Pirates. Lower end lineup than this one. But definitely some upside for King to give us 6 decent innings. And then more upside on the other side with Brian Wu. Wu, 5 innings in the last one, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a little bit of a bumpy start. Just 1 earned run, 3 runs total on 5 hits. That was against Texas. Against the Angels, start before that, 7 clean innings, 1 hit ball, 6 strikeouts and a walk. 9 strikeouts, a walk, 2 earned runs on 4 hits over 6 innings against Cleveland in the first one. Was tremendous throughout last year. Fantastic for strikeout to walk ratio. Just an utterly terrific control and command pitcher. 9,300, 10-8, has very good stuff, finds his Ks. Love Brian Wu's upside here against even a good low strikeout Padres lineup. So a lot of potential for success. Pods at just a 3.45 implied total. Mariners just 3.62 though, reflects the quality of the pitching matchup here. Again, these last 2 games, more pitching focused than offense, despite 4 good lineups. If you're leaning into the pods, Ramon Laureano in the top spot at 42-32, 4 home runs, 3 stolen bases. Not a bad start, a 147 WRC plus for a guy who was very successful throughout last year. Guy who's consistently, hit the ball squarely throughout his major league career. Has been up and down performance-wise, but has been going great for the better part of, 15 months now. Fernando Tatis at 52, 3,000, very affordable. Another guy comes in lower price than Ronald Acuna and lower price than a lot of less talented players across the slate. He only has a 14.6% barrel and a 72.9% hard hit rate so far. So obviously we need to price this guy at 3,000 just because he hasn't hit a home run yet. 84 WRC plus, I get it, I guess. 290 WOBA is bad, but a 366 X-WOBA is pretty damn good. Still a superstar. Don't let the pricing fool you. Has second base eligibility now on DraftKings because he played their 1 game the other day. Jackson Merrill at 45-30. Take advantage of that second base, by the way. That's fantastic. 45-32 for Merrill, entirely fair. 3 home runs, 3 steals. At least the counting stats have arrived again for him. A lot of upside in Manny Machado at 47-32. I just don't want these guys against Brian Wu, but that's a great collection of 4 hitters. Xander Bogaerts at cheap pricing can give you a little upside. Pair of home runs, pair of stolen bases, doing his thing out there. He'll bounce between 95 and 105 WRC plus all season long, and I like his odds to end up on the plus side of that again. Gavin Sheets, a little bit of upside for 20-ish home runs. He's got a pair already on the board. Lefty bat against the righty, but this is a very effective righty who should be able to exploit the holes in Gavin Sheets' game. Gavin Lux too, if he was on this team and available tonight. Nicky Castellanos, Freddie Fermin, and Jake Cronenworth make up the bottom of the lineup. Cronenworth's probably the guy you want. Upside for on base, even though he's not showing it so far this year. Better than the other two. Castellanos will hit a handful of home runs this year. He's not overly interesting down season the last couple of years. Cronenworth at least has quality via the on base and some run creation. Maybe an interesting wraparound if he's hitting ninth. Brian Wu, Michael King, Mariners, Padres. We close things out with the Mets and the Dodgers. Dodgers coming in at a big total. I don't know. Nolan McLean's a talented guy. 2.70 ERA, 3.02 xFIP so far, over 16 2/3 in his 3 starts. Had a successful WBC, faced some good talent in that one. And those good numbers come against Arizona, which is a decent enough lineup, depending on the day. 6 1/3, struck out 8, walked 2, 2 earned runs on 3 hits. Faced the Giants for 5 1/3, 1 earned run on 1 hit, 2 runs total, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. Faced the Pirates for 5 innings, 2 earned runs on 4 hits, struck out 8, 2 walks, gave up his only home run of the season in that game. He's been pretty dynamite. I feel like that Dodgers total is a little bit inflated, but it is the Dodgers. They're a 1 through 9 basically all-star team. You get down the 7 spot here, and Andy Pajes has been the best player in baseball this season. 230 WRC plus. It's not going to hold, but he's been off to a great start, and he was a good player last year. Alex Freeland's a premium prospect. Hee-Sung Kim is a good hit tool and an experienced guy with a lot of pro experience under his belt, which didn't need to specify experience twice. That's why the show runs long. So this is just a dangerous, dangerous lineup. But it wouldn't stun me if McLean had a very effective day at 8,300 on DraftKings. That's where I'm eyeballing him. I think he's interesting. Projects out just off the mark from the top end of the board. Again, the top of the board is like 30. It's the other side of this game. 33.78 on FanDuel, 17.5 on DraftKings today. Nolan McLean's numbers are not very separated from those. His price is the same on DraftKings. 300 cheaper on FanDuel as the guy on the other side of this game. A lot of talent there. Between the two, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. His price is 500 cheaper on DraftKings. I read that as 83. So for the discount, I think there's enough upside. At the same price, it would have been different. You would take the guy on the other side. For the 500 discount, that puts the argument back in place. Yamamoto's been great. 20.9% strikeout isn't exactly where we want it, but a 12.9% swinging strike rate and just a 3% walk rate puts him in good range of having a strikeout upside day on any given slate and tells us there's more to come in terms of the strikeouts. Last season, 29.4% strikeout also supports that argument over his 30 starts, 173 and 2/3 innings. A few too many guys on base. If we're nitpicking, 8.6% walk rate is not great, but a 20.8% strikeout minus walk, 2.49 ERA, 3.05 xFIP, we would really be nitpicking sub-1 whip. He was tremendous last year, and I expect the strikeouts to come back fully. So far this year, 2.50 ERA, but nearly a 4 xFIP is kind of interesting. 3.83 xFIP, 3.59 Sierra. Just something to keep an eye on there. He's been great at limiting premium contact so far. Love the upside for him, even going up against the talented Mets team. They've been underwhelming lately. They've been on a losing streak, failing to create runs. No Juan Soto. He's on the IL the last few days and again today. So definitely a downgrade for this lineup, but there is a ton of talent through there and a pretty good bottom end as well. So one of these days, these Mets are going to break out. I just don't love their chances to do so against Yamamoto. Very affordable on DraftKings, very playable at that price on FanDuel as the top projected pitcher of the day. If you go to the Mets, I think their underperformance this year is reflected in that 316 implied total. 64 WRC plus for Lindor, 64 for Bo Bichette, 66 for Jorge Polanco, 153 for Lou Bob, 49.55 on Beatty and Semien. Those numbers are going to go up for everybody in that group except for maybe Marcus Semien. We'll see what happens to him in the long term. Everybody else, full confidence they'll go up. Lou Bob has been good, so I'm not including him in that mix either. But all those other guys, stars to very good players, they'll be fine in the long term. And if they're getting left on the table entirely, maybe I'm somewhat interested in just grabbing the talent at cheap pricing and low ownership at the end of the night. Nothing about Vegas supports that. Nothing about the matchup really supports that. It's just gambling on some upside talent at the dish for discounted pricing. Lindor for 49, for 32, more to the point on FanDuel. Very affordable. Bo Bichette, yeah, he's off to a terrible start at 225, 273, 296. This is a guy who went 311, 357, 483 last year. Creator runs 34% better than average. Let's not write off Bo Bichette just because he's out to a bad 77 plate appearances. Very, very cheap. Shortstop eligible on FanDuel works. 36-27 for Jorge Polanco. This is a guy who's multiple times hit 20-plus home runs. One on the board this year, 192, 263, 308. Problematic, but a much better player than that. Again, Lubob's been good, 53-36, priced appropriately. Home runs, stolen base upside, good run creator. Love the talent, love the landing spot for him as far as resurrecting his career. Brett Baty, fair amount of hard hit baseballs last year, 12.8% barrel, 46.7% hard hit. Hasn't gone anywhere with it this year and has lacked the overall upside for premium contact, but he is a better hitter than he's been so far, and he's very cheap at 3,800. Probably prefer him in the outfield than first base on DraftKings. Probably take him at second base on FanDuel. Semien, mix and matchy talent until further notice. I think we're just down the other side of the mountain, wandering through the valley at this point with Marcus Semien, but he will consistently get plate appearances, and he is cheap every now and again. He'll turn on one. Jared Young, consistently very cheap for a guy who squares the ball up every now and again. 23 pretty decent plate appearances, yet to homer, but a 16.7% barrel, 50% hard hit across his batted ball events. Frankie Alvarez at 22% barrels, 47.2% hard hits, 4 home runs on the board with a great slash line over 51 plate appearances. He makes 500 plate appearances this year. We might see 30 home runs out of the young player. That is a very, very intriguing catcher bat. And then cheap Carson Benji, who has not been good since breaking camp with the team. Shohei Ohtani, no-brainer option if you're going there against a rookie starter. Speaks for itself, 13.18 in the home run model. Everybody else below the magic number for home runs. McLean hasn't had that problem so far in the show. Dynamite pitcher with swing and miss upside. Could work his way through this team. Kyle Tucker, so far this season, striking out at nearly a 24% clip. Historically, more a 14-15% strikeout guy. Underwhelming start to his Dodgers career, but a fantastic bat who is appropriately priced at $6,000, $4,100 across sites because he's just a superstar. Will Smith, phenomenal catcher. 4,200 gives you a little bit of that 6,065 for the first 2 hitters back because that is an underprice where you need the position. 3,200, play him like as a first baseman on FanDuel if you want him. Freddie Freeman at 5,235 is your go-to first baseman. 3 home runs, limited slash line so far for Freddie, but that should surge. 426 xWOBA under the 359, the stellar actual. The xWOBA suggests that he's been underperforming. Max Muncy crushes baseballs and draws walks. Love Max Muncy. Teoscar Hernandez makes fantastic contact. 3 home runs on the board for him with a 150 WRC+. Mentioned Pages has been performing 130% better than the average player. He's got a 366 xWOBA under a 518 actual so far. 5 home runs, slashing 417, 453, 733. Enjoy it while it lasts, but he is a good right-handed bat and a good developing young talent. And then Freeland and Hyun Kim, as mentioned, one of their top prospects, fills middle infield cheap, and just a good experienced bat for even cheaper across multiple positions. Dodgers bat's not a bad way to end things either, with upside against McLean. But again, should not knock anyone out of their chair if Nolan McLean has a good start for the money on DK today and a playable one on FanDuel. Questions, concerns, comments? It's 5:20. Nice long show today. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of it out there. A lot of talking from me. Be nice if I just, I don't even need a co-host, but if I had a Robin Quivers, just over here in the booth, just to laugh every now and again, chime in with a thought every now and again. Or going back to Stat Boy or Jimmy Kimmel on Win Ben Stein's Money. Yeah, that's what I need. I need a Jimmy Kimmel on this show. Not hosting, just over in the corner, cracking jokes every now and again. A Guillermo, if you will. Andy Richter. What's going on out there, people? You guys got favorite stacks? Anything you want to look at again? Just looking for a way to wrap up the show. It's only 5:20. I got nothing else to do but build lineups because NHL and NBA projections are already done. NBA starts at 7:30. There's only 2 games that's up on the site. Not a lot likely to change. I think there were 2 questionable players on the slate. Playoff basketball, everybody's going to be going, and it's going to be short clipped rotation. Should be easy to follow. NHL's up and running already. A lot of games for NHL rounding out their season over the next few days. I guess that's it. Let me punch out of here then. You guys absolutely rock. Thank you for all the thumbs ups, the subscriptions to the YouTube channel. Jump over to rotoscouts.com. Subscribe at the website. Everything is under $1 a day, all-in pricing for every sport we cover for the same under $1 a day, $6.93 for a weekly. Monthly's even less per day. Quarterly's even less than that. So check those out. Get you access to the projections, top stacks, power index, home run picks. Home run pick of the day, Hunter Goodman from the Colorado Rockies. Think they're maybe a little underappreciated for some sneaky power. Rabbit Holes asking about a twin stack. I don't dislike it, but I don't think it's got the explosive, unpredictable upside that we saw yesterday. Sonny Gray is a decent pitcher. He does have an impact on the home run ball to some degree. So I think if you take that out of the equation, it becomes a little bit less impactful for them. Buxton's a superstar, though, obviously. You can get to like a Buxton, Larnach, maybe one of Keishel Bell, and then like a Matt Wallner through there. James Outman is very interesting in the bottom spot. This is not the confirmed version, though. Did they confirm? No James Outman. That's right. We Cody Clemens in there, though. That replaces that Outman play from a few spots higher up in the lineup here. This is what the Twins actually have, since I have to update it in the next few minutes anyway. So we get Wallner hitting fifth. Makes him very interesting. Just a spot higher in the lineup. Caratini is a playable catcher bat at 3,100 on DraftKings. Cody Clemens slots in at second base. You can see the dramatic barrel and hard hit rates from Clemens last year. Underappreciated player. 2 home runs and 3 stolen bases amid a slow start over 33 plate appearances, but good for counting stats in a few games already. Last season, 19 home runs and 386 plate appearances. Hit the ball consistently hard. Had a 221 ISO in a partial season last year. It's a really interesting sneaky bat to throw at Sonny Gray. But again, Gray, totally experienced veteran pitcher with plenty of strikeout upside despite the downturn in strikeouts so far this year. We looked at that. It's based maybe on the pitch mix with using the cutter more, the fastball a little bit less. But maybe he's just coming back down the other side of the mountain. You know, we're talking about an aged pitcher at this point. So reason enough to consider the Twins, but I wouldn't expect them to lead the slate today. On the stacks board, they reflect that almost exactly. They rank 11th and 9th on FanDuel projections and value, 12th on DraftKings, but 7th by value is a little bit interesting. But you can see just 14th by home runs, 12th in the Vegas total. Colorado, sneaky value, I'm telling you, and second on the home run board against that Colton Gordon spot. I'm interested in that Colorado value again. A lot of lineups are confirmed. Coming up on 5:30. Guess it's punch out time. Let me go get this stuff updated so you guys can use the projections. We can all build lineups. Hop into the Discord. It's linked in the description below this video. Free Discord. No, you don't have to be a subscriber or anything like that. We're all hanging out in there, talking shop, shooting the breeze, making jokes, talking good lineups and so forth all day long. So hop in there. Thank you very much, Clintwood. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate all you guys out there, the people commenting in chat, the people not commenting in chat. Y'all rock. Best audience in the industry. I keep saying it. Like and subscribe one last time. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter. Love to see them. Makes my day when you guys are winning if I'm not. With that, we'll see you tomorrow, gang. Later.